You may hear the edgy music and think, wait, but TJ isn't edgy. Whose music could that be? That's right, it's Jury's. This is where you're like, that's my music. He's not. Alright. He's an unwilling participant in his own shaming, which I don't regret him or blame him for. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PVL Victory Rush. It's broadcast number 2 for me. I think broadcast number 3 for the tournament. We're going to start things off in a few moments with Xcessive Impulse facing off against BMGaming in our first match of the evening, and it should be a very exciting one. My name is TJ. I do have Jury with me, I think.
Maybe.
But I, tried to throw him a curveball, hit him with some shame about his music playlist, and he was just dead quiet.
I was focused on the lobbies.
All right.
The lobbies were my...
That is very understandable. You might be like, but wait, the title says there's going to be D2 here. And I'd like you to know, yeah, you're right. But someone got so hooked up on the fact that they were streaming and writing articles for their website, d2aov.com. That's d2aov.com. That they forgot that they were doing a tournament today, I guess, and kind of went to sleep and then haven't woken up. So, we're in a post-d2aov.com world right now. He may never awaken again. Don't worry, though. I have a solution. Solution number 1 is I have tea here, so we're just going to be kind of chill. Solution number 2 is after this game, I went ahead and slid into beginnings as DMs and asked him if he'd like to hop on the mic, and we may have him on to help cast after he plays in his first game of the evening. That might sound crazy, but when we were in Australia for the Valor Series Season 3 finals, he slid up to me at a coffee shop. He was like, "Yo, TJ, I hear you do that mic talking thing. How do you get into talking into microphones?" And I was like, you just do it, beginnings. You just find a microphone and you talk into it. And that's kind of where he needs to be at. And as a result, the fact that we now have this opportunity is fantastic for him. On screen right now, you'll see a bracket. This is the current ongoing bracket of the PVL Victory of Rush. Of course, the winner of this gets a ticket to the next season of the Premier Valor League and $300, which isn't bad at all. We do have... How many more qualifiers, Jury? You'd know this. How many more PVL qualifiers are there? 3, right? I think so. Slightly distracted admin Jury doesn't have the answer right off the top of his head. But we'll run a few more qualifiers for the PVL. And then there are some invited slots determined based on merit displayed during these events. So if you do really well here, then maybe even if you didn't qualify straight up, the fact that you played well will get you in anyway. I am in the lobby for game number 1. Which, as you can see, will be Xcessive Impulse versus BMGaming. All of Xcessive Impulse are here. Zane fell asleep, much like D2. It's chronic. And as a result, he's not here yet. Someone needs to wake up the entire AOV scene. Because there's a bug going around that's causing them to go to sleep. So we're on player short. I'm actually kind of tired too. You might be able to hear it. I'm doing the... I'm super awake and talking, but this is autopilot. Because I ended up, not by my own choice, but I ended up having to talk to some people in China super late last night. And they were very nice. It wasn't really a having to talk to them kind of thing. But it was definitely a I'm up at 2 a.m. kind of thing. And so, while I am here, I'm going to run out of tea at some point. And when I run out of caffeine, this broadcast quality is going to take a nosedive. Wait! Even the caster sounds tired. Yeah, that's where we're going to be at. We are still one player short. It is still Zane. I guess he just forgot to show up today. Hopefully not. But, while we're waiting... Oh, he's in! We got the manager in! C-Dubs sliding into the final slot! I don't believe it! BMG playing their manager on the national stage. I hope this happens. He slid back out. We got Zane. That's a shame. Not because I don't like Zane, but because I really would have liked to see their manager play.
Really, though?
Yes.
He's played before. He played in season 1 of the PV.
Yeah, he was on. He was on Pride
Kranez.
Attached in some way, I believe.
Yeah.
So, he's been around. He could have played. But we have Zane. A full 10-man lobby has been completed. And so we should get into the game in a moment. I'm keeping an eye on chat, which I don't always do, particularly if Daniel's here, because Daniel, like, takes all my attention away. He takes my breath away, too, but don't tell him that. Don't repeat that. His ego's big enough. So, this time, because he's not here to take my breath away, I can have chat up on my second monitor. I have the technology now. I reorganized all of my monitor placements. I got a third monitor ages ago. And then I never really, like, used it effectively. I basically was having 2 monitors, and then the third one was just Discord, which isn't actually what you're supposed to do. Now I have everything sorted out. And so do the teams. We're into game Xcessive Impulse over on the left-hand side. Blue side, Blue Martini Gaming. The current Valor Series champions, your representatives in the AWC, over on the red. You're going to have to pardon pauses like that. That's me drinking tea. And you might be like, you shouldn't drink tea during a broadcast. Secret is, I'm always drinking tea during a broadcast. I do that on the Valor series. I have a cup of tea behind the desk constantly. Now there's just no one to cover the pause. The bands are pretty standard. Hang on, I'll say Florentino, Darcy, and, well, Caffney. That means we get Tulin, Wonder Woman, Boldum. Sephora is a hover coming through in the first picks. Boldum as an insta-lock wouldn't make a whole lot of sense against anyone other than Beginnings. When you're playing against Beginnings, locking Boldum right down is really good because it functions as a second ban. Beginnings is a real good Boldum. With Sephora Lindis, this is actually a really good opening draft for Xcessive Impulse. They lead the way with the Boldum. He finds the initiations. The Sephora is going to do sustained damage over the course of a team fight. And oftentimes where teams get into trouble is the goals, the win conditions of their mage, their mid lane, and their ADC from jungle or bot lane aren't aligned. One of them wants to do burst damage, the other one wants sustained fights. Lindis, Sephora, both want the fights to extend for a while. They both want to just kind of sit in the back line and brawl. So if they can get maybe one more tank, I'd look for their top line to be beefy. I think Xcessive Impulse have a really good draft here. It's almost exactly the opposite over on the BMG side because they have so much burst. The Yorn Tulin combo will go in there. Of course, Yorn and Tulin have quite different mobility realities. The Yorn isn't going to be able to leave a team fight if an engage happens onto him. That's not so much of a problem because the current Xcessive Impulse draft doesn't have a single dive character and they've already drafted their mid and their jungle, which is typically where the dive comes from. So they feel very safe drafting the Yorn because even if they don't have anyone other than a Wonder Woman to play frontline for him, there isn't currently anyone who's going to get onto him in the backlines.
Blue team's turn to ban.
And that does present a problem because while I'm not the greatest Yorn fan, if you take a sustained poke fight or a sustained brawl fight against a Yorn, he'll win. Because he does so much damage. So if they just go ahead, draft another tank in the top lane, they're kind of going to be flipping the dice every fight here, I feel, over on the excessive impulse sign. Flipping the dice is what I just said. That's how you gamble. I did warn you I was tired. I'd like to see them flip the dice, though, because there's a chance those dice land on a 6 or heads every team fight, and that is definitely better than most teams have against BMG. Now, the way BMG can shut down this draft, though, is get themselves some dive here. Be it, I'd be interested to see it as an Errol. That would work. Errol, probably not in jungle, but maybe. To function as a little bit of dive, and then all of a sudden this double sustain fight I was setting up gets shut down. Because it's no longer Sephiroth Lindis sustain versus Yorn. It's Sephiroth Lindis try and sustain in a fight versus Yorn, and Tool and Errol can dive them. And if this Tool and Errol combo, yes, Richter as well, are able to get into the Sephiroth Lindis, they win the fight hands down. So, currently, this entire game, teamfight-wise, will be decided by whether or not Sephiroth Lindis stay safe, and whether or not they're farmed enough to do the vast majority of the damage in a teamfight. Every time BMG go for a teamfight, they're going to want to go full engage. This has to be, unless I'm missing something, jungle Errol. That's very exciting. So, I was kind of theory crafting that Errol could be used for burst damage. If you were watching my stream, wink wink, you would have seen me kind of playing around with the idea, and I concluded that I was having more success with sustain Errol because you can hang out in the back of team fights for such a long time with his lifesteal, and you need the extra time alive in order to get his passive up. His passive, of course, after 5 attacks, I believe, it makes his secondary Bone Shaver. I got this. He's been out a week. I know his ability names. Bone Shaver do massive damage. It's like basically his ult at some point. But if you're building burst damage, if you have squishy HP, you only really get to use that once per team fight. Whereas if you build a little bit more tanky, then Errol can reliably get to maybe even more of those Bone Shavers off every single team fight. So, this is a long-winded way of saying, when we see a jungle Errol here, I'd suspect it's going to go Leviathan. We're going to see more of a tank side to it, not full burst.
But at the same time, when you have a Varus, when you have a Wonder Woman going in, I mean, you get the additional support that you need.
Mm-hmm. And if we do see full attack damage, no defense Errol build from Zane, then that's going to be a vote of confidence in his supports. That will be him saying, you're not going to be able to get to me. I don't even care. And I would respect that. I'm not sure if I'd believe in it. We're into game. It's a excessive impulse against BMG, a best of 3. And it should be a good one. I'm going to keep an eye on this Errol. I want to see what happens here. Beginnings is just brawling out versus Tickler. That's Wonder Woman into Baldum, which early game will go to the Wonder Woman. Late game, Baldum doesn't really die. It's just kind of all on him using that positioning well. I'm a little bit interested in how this bot lane's going to go. Typically, Crashed is a very... Ooh, Kaden. Little bit too far forward. KZ Fox doesn't quite have the damage to shut him down, but Tickler's going to go in here, and that's too much. He shouldn't have done that. The second he thinks he can maybe get a little bit more poke out of the battle, he leans into a 1v2. Even though their HP bars are low, if you can't instantly blow one up, there's still two players doing damage onto you when you can only do one player's worth of damage back. And there's just no way you win that. Caden in the mid on the Sephra will kind of struggle because that early loss of his support, especially now that their top lane went down as well. This could get very dicey. Tickler, ooh, will stay ahead of Zane's dive. As suspected, this will be a null cleaver being built on Zane, meaning it's going to be Leviathan, a little bit more tanky from the Arrow jungle. There's the ult in though. Schmeckles caught out, and right off the bat, the Arrow claims first blood with a shutdown. Tickler should fall as well. The Bonesaw grabs another pick in mid, and I believe in Arrow support, or Arrow jungle. I also believe in Arrow support, but that's a whole nother matter. I'm kind of blown away by how effective, right off the bat, they're using Arrow as Oop, did you miss there, Zane? Alright, we'll brush over that. Just slide it off screen. We're seeing Arrow being used very effectively as initiation for his mobility characters. And that's something I was really looking forward to seeing. The second a well-coordinated team picked up Arrow for the first time. Nice little, speaking of good coordination, that pick in mid was slick. There's the Metamorphosis though, KZ Fox in trouble. Caden gets a kill back, blows Tides of Life for it, which he shouldn't have done, but they'll be happy they get a kill. So I wanted to know where this Zane build would go after Null Cleaver. So far it's just Gilded Greaves, which is fairly standard, and then probably, I'm not going to even make any guesses. I don't want to be wrong. Beginnings will get poked. KO did grab a kill up top with the backup of Zane in the mid lane. You can see Tickler going in on KZ Fox, who has to lightning strike away. Schmeckles will begin to do some damage if he gets into the late game, so they need to be cautious of that as Caden dances back and forth here. There's bracelets from Beginnings, and they just have the worst optimized team fight. Neo can just sit here and rain in the damage. Now Zane arrives to close things down. Bonesaw for the initiation, and I'm not sure the turnaround's going to be possible. Schmeckles is just having to run for his life when he tried to be that poke. And now Orlando with that Malleus. It is too far forward. Zane's got the shutdown. Good Metamorphosis, but a double kill already to Zane. And Firefly cannot find any of the trades in his area. That's devastating. In answer to my earlier question, Zane rushes Leviathan. That isn't something you typically do as a jungler, but when you're in control of a game like this, it's a smart investment because you can instantly initiate into the enemy's jungle. So you're getting stacks faster than you would normally. You're getting those jungle item stacks from killing monsters quickly enough that it's worth it. Now he'll abuse that Leviathan and focus down the Abyssal. This could get dangerous while Prison does land. There's the Bone Cleaver. I'm not sure this is a good idea. Zane into 3. He's got the bracelets as backup. Tides of Life, Angelic Splendor. They don't even slow him down. Him and Beginnings slaughter the core, and it will be just Schmeckles running for his life. My God. All right. I mean, first off, anything looks good in the hands of Zane, particularly in the hands of a Zane playing alongside BMG. But oh my God, did that work? Look at how much damage he's doing on his second ability there. Absolutely destroying people, and it works so well. It works so well with Neo. They're just using him in Beginning as kind of a double front line, and then Neo's sitting in the back, raining in the damage from Yorn. This could be a 6-minute game. I think this will be a 6-minute game. Nobody's here on the respawn. There's the full focus. Game 1 over and done with.
That's a pretty good time.
There are dominant games. And then there is that game. That was a absolute walloping. And you know what? I would have been disappointed with anything less. Rank Breaker was the second item coming out from Zane. That's interesting. So you go Leviathan, then you go for a little bit of damage, relying on the Leviathan to keep you alive. I would be curious to see if he ran that build if they weren't ahead. Because as I said, it doesn't normally make sense to rush Leviathan before your third item, your second item. So I would suspect that he'd go a little bit more defensive normally. But also it's Zane, and defensive and Zane don't really go together. We do have a lobby ID for the second game. So I'm going to throw over to this screen so that I don't leak the lobby ID. Back in the ESL Go 4 days 2 years ago, I was like notorious for that. Absolutely notorious. I'd join a lobby and they'd go, TJ, did you cover the lobby ID? And I'd look over at my OBS on my other monitor and I'd go, no. Random people from the chat start joining. Kind of backfired on me because then teams just developed the policy of not inviting me till the lobby was already full and there was no way it could mess things up. But I figured it out eventually. I got real good at not leaking the lobby ID. Just look at my record here in the PVL Victory Rush. Haven't leaked lobby ID once. Are they using Android phones? I don't know, KZ Fox. I'm not sure who uses... Oh! No, okay. So people, all these crazy people, think that they're going to do something cool and change their username to be something with a whole bunch of special characters. This first screwed Vex over. Any tournament organizer who is capturing AOV does so from a emulator. Not because there's not good capture solutions for phones, and not even because it improves the quality, because I don't think it does. I think an iPhone actually looks better than an emulator. But it's just easier to capture footage from and spectate on a full PC. It's easier to cast for me from a full PC. So I'm using an emulator. And the special characters that they want to put in their name to make it like all fancy and high-tech just don't show up. So for the first 3 months of the ESL Go 4s, Vex, the top player in Europe at the time, was referred to as E, because his fancy V and his fancy X didn't show up, so he was just an E.
Blue team's turn to ban.
Eventually, E became Vex, and the rest is history. But I knew you were still listening. But
Oh yeah.
Blue team's turn to ban.
I think going into Game 2, the lack of characters in KZ Fox's name are not what's holding them back. A Roxy ban right off the bat says to me that this is going to be a little bit more of a wild draft from BMG. They want to go ahead and force the traditionally overpowered characters into the pool so they can get some practice against them.
Blue team's turn to ban.
Interestingly enough, the Cappany is the first ban, which says that she is right now absolutely the worst. Nobody feels comfortable playing into Cappany, because the second that Roxy ban comes through, it's kind of telegraphed. Oh, we're going to be forcing stuff through. oh, we're going to be forcing random overpowered characters into the map pool. And Xcessive Impulse instantly say, okay, that's fine, but no Cathany for the love of God.
I'm expecting to... Whoa.
So
I did not see that coming.
We talk about this a lot. If your opponent is doing this to you, they're forcing powerful characters into the pool, and your second pick, just play along. Ban out something target. I'm not a big fan of the Zill because it's not a target ban. I would rather they have got rid of one of the things that is played very well over on BMG. But ban out something target, and then there are a lot of overpowered characters coming through, and you can get two of them. I'm not sure Teamy is in my list of overpowered characters, but they get an Arrow as well.
I just feel like there are stronger, scarier options than the Arrow, but they may have not played against them enough to have a real understanding of how to defend against them.
I'm a big Arrow fan, not gonna lie. I fiddled with him a little bit. I'm kind of into what he has. I think we'll see him in pro play. Chat.
I'm gonna be honest though, with the potential change to Xennial, there's a lot of heavy hitter characters with higher hit points. All you have to do is sustain through Errol, and he's really not that bad.
The big thing for me getting to play with him a bit was that Errol just has so many iframes, so much invulnerability, that he can, like, stay alive through anything. It's a lot of fun. The draft continues. It'll be Raz, Superman, Hayate for Blue Martini, confirming my theory that this is a play around with stuff game. Because none of those characters are out of the meta, but you wouldn't normally get this draft. So, they're trying some here. They'll be trying it into Teamy, Arrol, Telenas so far. That's a much more standard Fortress comp. If they're playing this Arrol in the jungle, which I suspect they are, that Arrol will jump out into the backlines of the enemy team, play as kind of the poke. The Telenas will sit behind a wall. The wall will be formed by Teamy and one other tank. Zuka as a ban. I know they're just messing around, banning out characters that don't immediately impact them, but I still feel the need to note that is a Zuka ban. Oh my god. Is that Daniel? D2AOV.com?
What?
I was hoping no one would notice.
Is that Daniel D2.AOV.com who streamed until 6 a.m. and then slept in?
That's my response to that.
I did notice some news updates on his website as well. What's that website again?
Oh, well, if you'd like the full chronicle of how he overslept, you can go over to where a brand new article has just been posted about it. That's right, D2AOV.com.
You know what actually woke me up is TJ pronouncing Hayate, and I was like, whoa, what happened? What happened? Hello?
Oh, sure. Hit back hard. Get back in the call. You're like, oh, man, I've lost chat's respect. Or I'll hit back by picking on TJ's pronunciation.
That's literally the exact moment I saw it. I jumped into the call. I was like, what? Hello?
Well, I'm excited because this draft continued, and that's Arduin being drafted alongside Lumber. We'll have to see how they combo into, particularly the... Oh, I can't even, I tried to mangle Superman in my head, and, that's just such a core part of my vocabulary. I know how to say Superman. I literally can't mangle it.
Superman.
It's
very hard.
like you can't do it because you're so used to saying Superman. Wow.
You know what the funny thing is for the viewers at home is that I joined this call a little bit too late, which means I'm not in the lobby, which means that we get some 30-second delay commentary from here.
Oh, and the stream's on a delay too, so that we're not leaking competitive strats. So you're like a minute behind.
Yeah. I'd be like, hey, you know that thing you saw a minute ago? Here's what I want to tell you about it.
I'll call out for the D2 weather report. We'll do it. Till then,
it's not the weather prediction. It's the weather. How was it going yesterday?
Yeah, exactly. Till then, I'm bringing you the storm cloud analysis.
10 seconds.
Lumber,
remaining.
Arduin, Superman, Raz, Hayate. Are the
Everything
things-
about that comp is fine except for the troll by Zane and Arduin.
Is it a troll? Is there no place for Arduin in viable competitive play? Because, like, obviously this isn't the best draft they could have made here, but if they're trying this out as a team comp, is that something we could see?
No.
Okay.
And here's why. Arduin's fine as a hero in general, but in competitive, as a jungler, he just does not clear fast enough. Because his second ability, it's a shield. And yes, it provides you some true damage, but it doesn't clear fast enough to provide you that clear speed in order to get on the battlefield. And even if you're doing the secondary jungler thing that Wonder Woman normally does, you're still not clearing quickly enough to be a force in the field. You could be a secondary hero, allowing for someone to kind of clear. It's just so wonky and clunky that you'd rather go with something like Wonder Woman.
I would like you to apologize because it's already working great. C-Dub's in trouble. By the way, their manager playing. Firefly lands the snipe. C-Dub's is gone. Oh, but the Arduin's done. It lands again and it sets up for a kill. Neo's got a response and the trades are even so far.
You could pick random heroes for BMG and put them in random roles, and I feel like they would beat literally any team in NA because they are that good.
They are the IWC representatives, to be fair. C-Dubs.
And not just NA representatives. They're representative literally the entire West. All of not only North America, but South America and Europe. Because that is just nuts.
You know, I was having a discussion last game because they played a more serious draft and Zane popped off with Leviathan Arrow. And I really like that, but my understanding of what's meta for junglers is highly dependent on what seems cool to me at the time. So, explain to me why that's a bad idea.
In general, I feel like if you're going to be picking Arrow, wouldn't you want to go for something like Soul Reaver? Arrow just in general confuses me. I can't really provide you honest, good analysis on Arrow because he's just
of Arrow, having played an entire evening of streams of him, is currently the best around, and that is Sustain Arrow is really good.
The weird thing about Arrow is that he loses some of his armor and gains attack speed, and then some lifesteal and what have you when you start attacking. So it's
every time your passive goes up, you use your second ability, and the more times your passive goes up, the more team fights you win. That's how Arrow works. So having extra sustain, beginnings, my God, you can't catch him. The Madman. That's actually a preview of the new Sonic movie. Wow. That was so cool. Beginnings just zips out of there faster than you can say Jim Carrey playing Dr. Eggman. Anyway, so the benefit of Arrow in the middle of a team fight is just every time he gets his passive up, he lands massive AoE damage, and it gives him most of his HP back. So the more times he can get his passive up during a team fight, the more team fights you win. So building Sustain Arrow is just better than building full damage Arrow, because diving in and getting blown up after only one use of the passive isn't nearly as good. Most of his damage comes from his Bone Shaver.
Right, and if we're going to be previewing the article I put on the good old site that's called D2AOV.com, changes that he got on the Taiwan server that's coming likely soon to other servers is that you are now immune to stuns as you go up and throw out that Bone Shaver up into the clouds and then leave it down onto the field. Yeah. You can't get stunned out of that anymore, which is I feel like that's a big deal. I feel like getting stunned out of that is something you don't want to be stunned out of.
My big thing was getting stunned out of my ult. That was what was causing me misery.
Oh,
there's
you know
like
what?
A tiny little cast time on his ult, and you can get stunned out, and that's like the hard counter. You wait until Errol tries to cast his ult to bail, and then you just drop a fat stun on him. Can't do anything.
You know the revelation that I had last night as I was playing on my good old stream is I think that Weiro might be the worst hero in the game right now.
All right.
And I say that because you can get stunned out of your ult. And why? And it's something I would consider because I'd seen people play Weiro. I'd seen him be, effective in actual competitive play.
Oh. Sorry. I just watched a Baldum Orlando get away with some stuff he should not have gotten away with. He just did some ballroom dancing to get out of the top lane, and that was really impressive.
Oh, interesting. That would be the second time for him because he killed Beginnings earlier.
Yeah, and he's still staying alive underneath this tower, just running around in circles. The wild prison. I don't believe it, Orlando, you madman. He keeps himself alive. Now Zane's here as well. The 3v1 under tower is enough to kill him, but only barely. How are you alive, Zane?
You know what the funny thing is that despite BMG completely dominating the Western scene, it doesn't mean that these teams are bad. I would like to see something like, a TXO or a MAD team go against one of the professional teams with like a kind of a troll comp. Obviously, it'd be by definition disrespectful, but I want to see if they could kind of perform the same general party tricks that BMG have been able to perform here, and I think they could. Honestly, I think that the best teams are that much of a step away from the secondary teams in even the professional division.
Chat corrects me. It's not ballroom dancing, it's ballroom dancing. And I don't know how I missed that, because that is such a TJ joke. I would like to apologize to my family.
It wasn't written down. It wasn't written down in TJ's notes. That's why I didn't go
to
the stream.
I don't know. We were talking about how you overslept. I was up till like 2 a.m. talking to some people in China as well. So like, we're both equally tired. This is going to be an exciting stream, even when you are in game.
Absolutely. You know what's funny? In an absolute shocker last night, this is the upset of the tournament because we're not going to see something like that from what is this, She Team against BMG. The absolute shocker last night was me being so tilted by the Indonesia server that I went to the NA server. That is a shocker.
What did the Indonesia server do to you?
Just all the things, just everything. It might not have been Indonesia server in general. I might be being too harsh on the Indonesia server. It might have just been platinum.
What the Indonesia server did to you?
It might have just. It might have just been the fact that it was platinum. Like I got so sick of platinum that I went to diamond, and I know that most players can't just do that, but it feels much better to have
you can do that
players
with D2AOV.com. Oh, the Earth Splitter! 3 players caught in it. C-Dubs goes huge. And that should be all of the kills picked up. Tickler's got other ideas. A full bail. Zane has to dive behind the tower to get it. What's this build, by the way? Okay, it is Leviathan. I thought it was going to be Soul Reaver Arduin, and I was so pumped. It's Leviathan Arduin.
He's already a Leviathan on my side. Anyway. Well, he went Leviathan into the Spear Longinus, which is a fun
go Soul
name.
Reaver at that point.
Right. Spear Longinus is like, you're going to be in the fight so long that you might as well, like, Spear Longinus is kind of anti-synergistic with itself, if that makes any sense, because it provides armor pierce, but you need to be in the fight long enough for the armor pierce to proc, because once you proc the armor pierce, that doesn't apply until your next attack. So if you like jump on someone, then they're like, no. You know that attack you did? Sorry, it's not gonna apply to the next thing you do. Which means you need to be in a fight for a long time for it to actually do anything. And then on top of that,
Sorry. Caden just had a very bad day.
oh, well, I'm looking at him right now. I'm very sad. I feel sorry for his future. But yeah, Spear Longinus doesn't always make sense. Like literally, the only hero I play that I play Spear Longinus on is Max, and that's because it's bugged, or maybe it's a feature. I don't know. Maybe they do it on purpose. But if you play Spear Longinus on Max, the entire opposing team gets minus 150 armor pierce when you pop his ultimate, and that is like literally the only situation where I see it being like reasonable. Otherwise, you're playing something like I'm seeing this game end. Has the game ended already?
It's fine. Orlando's getting bullied. They've won the team fights. Blue Martini do a thing. Oh, actually, these respawns could make it dicey. Firefly has to back up. C-Dub's too far forward. Caden's there for the front lines, but Firefly's not landing the snipes. And Caden is having trouble with the 2v1. He's got one, though. Zane's here. Oh, KZ Fox through. Only gets one. It's all on Zane. And the jungle Arduin can't do it. They've overextended. Finally, Blue Martini go a bridge too far.
So I get to talk again? Is that what happened?
Nah. Beginnings is back. He wants the 3v1, and he's already got one. He's got Firefly low as well. He'll get that second kill. It's just Orlando here. Beginnings can absolutely do this, and he knows that, but he won't take the risk.
Why not? Tell me. Give me that portrait of a picture.
Well, Orlando did just beat him, like...
Yes, he's had bad experiences with Orlando's smooth moves before. So, Blue Martini do a thing where, like, you could take literally any team fight that they have, show it to me with the names scrubbed off, and I'd be able to tell you it was a Blue Martini team fight. Because they are just so much more in sync than at least any of the other Western teams. Just their CC chains, their individual stuns, little moves like what they just did to Orlando, don't happen on other Western teams.
I feel like you're swinging sweet music into the admins of this tournament to make sure they get invited.
I don't have that kind of power. Neo,
or
what are
do
you
you?
doing? 1v3. All right, works out. Zane takes the front line. That should be the game. A triple kill to Neo. A minion wave through. It's only Schmeckles and Caden for the wave clear. The super minion stays live. Kited to the side. And that means it will be game. Do they get the ace? Schmeckles. It's gone. Beginnings. Tower dives the fountain. And it's 2-0 to BMG.
Wait, is it best of 5?
No.
No. Not that. Oh.
It's 2-0 to AG. IEGG.
What?
Yeah, this
IEGG
are the rest of round 2. Everything after that's best of 5. So the final match tonight.
Yes, our last match tonight will be a very fine. Here's the end game scoreboard. The reason we didn't bother talking about that game too much in the moment was that BMG were playing a little bit silly, but they reaffirmed that their teamfight skill alone can carry them through games. Neo with 15-2 as his final KDA. Shout out to Orlando, who had some slick little plays in the middle of that shenanigans. I'll show you the builds as well.
Should I continue my diatribe against the Spear Longinus?
Why don't we take a quick break to like adequately prepare?
Well, it wasn't. Good? I was almost done. But anyway, we can take a break. That's fine.
Frame of mind to learn about the Spear of Longinus. You know what I mean?
Also, everyone at home needs to learn about the pronunciation of Spear Longinus, which, normally I'm okay with just throwing out there into the world and letting everyone hear it off of my tongue. But in this particular case, I think everyone needs some preparation time.
Yeah. You can't just... One man doesn't simply embrace the Longinus by himself. It needs to be an effort that happens over a lot of time. So we're going to give you some time. We'll go to a quick break. We'll come back with game number 2. That's going to be Avengers versus King Crimson. and hotly anticipated sequel to the Marvel blockbuster franchise. Don't go far. We'll be right back with that game after this. Wow, that was actually the intro music for a podcast we did once, Daniel. We came in right at the end of the exact section of that song that I used for our podcast intro.
Is that the podcast where we dive onto the towers?
Yeah, it is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Not That Podcast. It's the PVL Victory Rush. My name's TJ, joined by D2, and he, in turn, is joined by Beginnings. That's right, there are 3 people in this Discord call.
Oh, wow.
Blue team's turn to
Hi,
ban.
We are into
Beginnings.
Our...
Hi.
I'm powering through. This is online. You can't hold. We are into our second game of the day, our second BO3 here on the PVL Victory Rush, and I didn't update the scoreboard, but it is Avengers versus King Crimson.
And this is a matchup that we've been looking forward to because we saw King Crimson last time he casted TJ, and they look pretty impressive. And I believe if they win this, they play against your team, Beginnings?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. We play against them tomorrow, I think.
So you're getting some advanced scouting here.
Not at all a conflict of interest.
Oops.
Shouldn't have him here on the cast at all. So we were having some kind of back and forth discussions during the last game. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts as we go through the early pick ban phase here. How are you feeling about Errol these days?
Errol is okay. He's just a very mediocre hero. He has the opportunity to do lots of burst, but he rarely ever gets to that point. It's kind of really easy to play around him.
So I've been kind of running on the theory that Errol is incredibly viable as a sustain character in the backlines, and his mobility, particularly from his ultimate, makes him a step above the rest of the sustain backline divers, because he can always get out.
I can see where you're coming from there, but I feel like leaving the ability for him to get out gets rid of a lot of his damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where he falls short, I guess.
A little bit
My
shorter
person-
on the damage.
My personal opinion is that people are perhaps slightly underestimating Errol because we haven't seen the hardcore Errol mains that make him work because his kit is so particular and so peculiar, and you have to really get a lot of games in to figure him out. So I feel like there are people, I'm not going to say a certain Thai streamer who put him in tier F in his tier list, but he is someone who needs quite a bit of practice. I don't think he is terrible, but he's certainly someone who can impact a game more than you might expect.
Well,
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
he may be impacting this game, because he hasn't been banned out. Instead, the bans are Richter Lindis, Hayate, Caffeine. Florentino will be our first pick, as in a rare instance, both he and Darcy get through the ban phase.
What do you even think about Florentino these days, Beginnings? Not to, I don't want to step on your thoughts pre AWC, but it seems like he doesn't have quite the impact that he had previously.
Yeah, since his nerfs, he definitely has a lot more counterplay. And I think just since it's been so long since his release, a lot of teams have gotten used to how to play around both Darcy and Florentino.
And by the way, for those of you at home, it seemed like he only got a 1% nerf on his second ability, which at the time was, significant, several hundred points of damage if you're going against larger heroes. But he actually got a triple nerf. They nerfed his base damage, and they nerfed the slow on his triple threat, and they nerfed the true damage. So he was nerfed. He got the big nerf hammer, not usually what you see from Tencent developers.
The sledgehammer, and it had to come in, but Florentino still first picked here. He will be opposed by Baldum Darcy first cycle. Joker Tulin come in to back him up. Is this the rare support Joker?
That would be interesting. Yeah, that would be interesting. I'm hoping not, though. I'm hoping actually Avengers are smart enough to pick up Chognar. Because Chognar just makes Darcy kind of a useless hero for the first 10 minutes of the game.
Well, tell me, actually, expand on that because I have been perhaps the biggest Chognar hater on the entire planet because you're so reactive with what you do. You can't set up kills at all. You can't save allies other than using your CC cleanse. And just waiting for Darcy to pop his ult or else you can't do anything just feels very inadequate to me.
Oh, well, I would say that's when it's a mechanics thing, right? Like playing so much of Chognar specifically into Darcy, you learn the matchup. You learn when you have to ult defensively or when you can ult offensively. It's just a matter of, I guess, not respecting, but realizing when you have to play passive versus aggressive.
I'm interested in passive play in Chognar, don't get me wrong. But let's talk about aggressive play, because we got Azuka. We had the bounciest boy being locked in. I'm not sure how to take this.
With the samurai skin, I don't even know what that skin is, but it is fantastic.
Thank you very much.
It's pretty great.
So
I'm enjoying it too.
Florentino Tulin Joker, I legitimately don't know who the Zuka is targeting, because all of those characters have pretty good disengage abilities. So this feels like a misfire to me.
Just by being bursty in general, it's a reasonable pick because he can kill all of those 3 heroes as long as Joker's pick a card, any card isn't up. Because again, Zuka has literally 4 dashes. He has 2 on his first ability. He has another on his second ability and another jump on his third ability. So he can get onto anyone if he needs to. Tulin, if he dashes away, Zuka's like, "Ha, that was cute. The fact that you dash, I have a bunch of those." So he can definitely get on the heroes. The issue is if he gets too deep, then he's just going to die himself.
Beginnings, I'm a call on you and your deep roster of knowledge. Tell me real quick what's going on with this Florentino Joker Tulin. What is the game plan? This is jungle Florentino?
No, I mean, they could still just be running regular Darkslayer Florentino, Dragonlane Joker, mid Tulin. I wouldn't put it past them.
So is that then just full damage and they need a tank to pick up in these final 2?
Oh, yeah. It's actually looking like a lot like they want to go full dive here. And I think they can pull it off. I think the red team, I can't remember their name right now, sorry. I think they really messed up in not banning Chognar. That was kind of a bad call.
You know what? I think they didn't mess up. I think that Chognar is garbage and they realize it. And they're like, go ahead, pick the Chognar.
Yeah.
To hover on Ryoma Zephyrs. No Chognar in sight. Maybe Azil will come through instead. It's a Murad Zuka lock-in opposing them, though. And that means it's double Assassin against triple, you could argue. Assassin over on the Avengers side? I'm unprepared for this video game.
You could call the entire side of Avengers Assassins. They're the Avenger Assassins. Assassin Avengers.
I'll bite. That Alice actually full assassin over on the King Crimson side as well. Because Alice, one of the deadliest characters on the battlefield. And if you don't believe me, you can head on over to Beginnings' YouTube channel, where he just posted an Alice video.
Thanks, TJ. I appreciate that.
I just want to see Beginnings on the Taiwan server with that, you know, that massive line that she has where she just talks for 3 minutes straight, and it's like, is that seriously a single line from you?
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
it's in my Twitter history, but
she just has a paragraph that she wants to get off her chest, and I respect that because I feel that way too. I do that sometimes, occasionally on air, as Daniel will know. So, completed draft. Bouncing off both of you. Who won this draft and why? 2 sentences, Daniel.
I am just completely confused because apparently we are getting the Joker support here. This is a cop-out, but it all comes down to the early game. If we see the blue team, the Avengers side, dominate the early game, it's going to be completely over. If things stay even, then I see King Crimson taking this.
Beginnings?
I would say in normal circumstances, King Crimson definitely won draft. But I think our boys over at the Avengers definitely trust in their mechanics enough to pull off the win.
So that's just you relying on Ra and 80s Hero, both of whom you've played with. You think that regardless of their draft, which you said King Crimson won dominantly, they'll win.
Yeah, Avengers are actually our scrim partners, so I have a pretty good idea of how they play. But yeah, definitely Red Team definitely won draft tier. Like if a team got this in, I'd say
Why?
normal Valor series, just because Murad, if played right, is a very dominant jungler. Baldwin is easily considered one of the best supports out there. I think it's actually almost a direct counter to the Joker support. And that's what part of the reason why I didn't expect them to continue with it after picking it in the first half. So they must be really confident about it.
My thoughts are that I've seen this composition from Nova EU quite a bit here from the Avengers side, and it's just run circles around opposing teams, even when you don't think it's going to work. I remember sitting in the lounge when Nova did this in Game 3 against Team Queso when they were playing for the European Championship, and I said, well, we've seen this from Nova EU before. I think this is over. I think they just win going away, and lo and behold, they did so.
Only you would find a way to work a humble brag into your predictions. If you'd
I
like
don't know if
to
it was
see more
humble.
stellar predictions, you can do so over at d2aov.com. We're into game. It is game number 1 of best of 3 here in the PVL Victory Rush. I got that out without tripping. You didn't hear a thing. Avengers versus King Crimson.
The best way to humble brag is just not be humble about it. Just go straight for the brag.
What is this? Ra opens things up strong, just poking into the enemy jungle. He's got Super, Danex, and Mokti all here around the Sage buff. And he just keeps going, pulling them as far back off. But as Yu comes in on the flank with this Murat, it could get very scary indeed. Super goes in, pulling Ra out. Triumphs already down to a 3rd HP. And Ami still getting hammered on. They do make out with that buff, though.
Beginnings, I want to refer to you on this. I feel like they could have been completely punished there if Avengers were, just dived on a little bit harder there from the side of King Crimson.
Oh, for sure. King Crimson definitely could have done more to prevent that from happening. Zill's level 1 isn't the greatest, so they could have punished it, but I guess just mechanical difference, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Mokti landed a couple of those dimensional cubes there, and in particular, Triumph was sitting there in the back, just waiting to be taken out. He had no abilities to his name, and then they just kind of forgot about him.
It was very unfortunate for them.
It's really hard, I think, to close distance in some of those early game fights, though. They end up looking like a fiesta just because nobody can quite catch up with the low HP person in the back of the fight.
Yeah, you're like, well, I normally would have these abilities, but apparently I only have 1/3 of them available.
I always catch myself tapping where the ability would be.
If only I could do this thing. And then you realize, like, yeah, the reason why I'm ahead in this fight in the first place is because they can't do the same thing either.
Dan? He's fine. He's the man. 80s hero is actually on the hunt, though. He might not be fine for long. Double lightning strike. High on blast. It's wide. He completely flops it. Temporal turbulence in the meantime with another dimension. Triumphs almost goes down, but does land the trade kill. It's this second Sage buff stolen away. The Avengers look strong. Super gets a blood back, though, with a nice little combo. If Mokti's able to survive this, which he is with a flicker, then this is a net win, surely, for King Crimson.
I love how Aegis Hero decided to describe to us, just give us a visceral experience of not having your ultimate available to finish someone off. He's like, this is what it feels like to not have an ability.
I think King Crimson has done a very good job of establishing the dominance over Dragon here. Darcy definitely overextended, but...
Yeah, until then. Until that moment.
Yeah.
Until
They
that
did
moment
manage to scare it.
where it got stolen away, and Yu goes one bigger as well. That's the Abyssal Dragon to King Crimson. Yu gets a kill. Despite all the shenanigans, they still get the Abyssal, they still tie up the kill lead, and they're bringing the gold back within 1k. This has got to be a good sign Marcus wants more. He wants to double down on the good signs up top, and he's having a really rough time. He's blown his cooldowns, and this Florentino will just slowly and steadily win the fight, despite anything he can do.
That just feels so bad when you have... When you're basically 60% health to 10% and you know that you're dead. That's a sad, sinking feeling on the inside.
Yeah, Mark is definitely playing with his food a bit there, maybe.
Was there anything he could have done to turn that fight as Azuka?
Oh, no, definitely not. Azuka's early game is pretty bad. That's when you guys were talking about the bouncy boy tactics and one-shotting people. The entire time I was just thinking, well, Azuka's early game is pretty bad, and he's going to have a rough time against Florentino. So I don't think he'll ever really get to the point of one-shotting.
Ami, into the midst of an entire fight, doesn't go down. Somehow, miraculously, nobody does. Now Yu goes back in, hammering Ami down to its sliver of HP. He'll survive. Minions get nothing on the tower. But it's another buff stolen away as Avengers continue to bully the jungle, and Dan's in trouble. A double focus behind tower removes him and the bot lane turret.
Could you elaborate the beginnings on Zuka being bad early game? Because I feel like having the double ability, the double first ability when you're starting out in the lane allows you to just completely blow someone up.
Well, it's just due to the fact that with people who enjoy skirmishing, like Richter, Ryoma, Florentino, Varus, Scud even, they're just going to out-trade him, right? Because they have more CC than he does. And as long as you're not fighting within a wave, he's almost never going to get that guaranteed shield. Just Florentino's so good at dueling, and you can see right now he has his Hercules. The Zuka can do nothing at this point. He can just clear wave and hope to get a rotation over on Marcus.
And you can see how passively Kanakas is playing that top lane. He's like legitimately behind tower. Now he's got backup, a Murad through, but Temporal Turbulence and Another Dimension both go wide. Still get nothing.
Can you talk about the rotations from the jungler when it feels like such a waste when the jungler rotates top, and it's a really big risk in my opinion to go for that, and they have to get it or else they're just giving away free Abyssal Dragon.
Well, it's mostly a timing thing, right? You want to rotate topside when you can lose as little as possible. So yeah, I would argue that rotation wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst. Oh,
that rotation was the worst. Two players stand on top of Wild Prison, double pickup quite easily down for Super. And now, King Crimson have the kill lead for the first time off the back of a sick little combo play defending their buff.
Despite the kill lead, though, they are in still a pretty big goal deficit. As a team, 80s Hero, what is, or it's not 80s Hero, your beginnings. Sorry, 80s Hero is on my screen. As a team beginnings, how do you manage like keeping the gold lead while being a deficit in kills?
Can you restate the question? I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused what you're asking.
Like how do you go about making sure that, you know, even in a situation where you might be behind in kills, how do you manage to stay even or like at least close or even ahead in the gold count?
Oh, that's just that's from farming and objectives on the map. You can see right now, Avengers, they do have their bot tower, and I think they've gotten a dragon, and they're just farming better. You see Zuka, he's only farming under tower, and that definitely affects your gold income. You're gonna miss more CS. You're not gonna last as much, and minions are just worth less than their tower. So it's like that in all lanes, right?
All I'm hearing is all I hear from that entire explanation is don't go full LATAM.
Yeah, pretty much.
Never go full LATAM. Mid lane though, Super dives 1v3,
Oh, no.
calling LATAM a call it over aggression. He's punished quite quickly. An easy kill picked over. Now the rest of the team just has to play from behind tower.
That is easily Baldum's biggest weakness. Other than maybe his clunky ult, but if you miss his wild charge, you are dead in the water unless you have your team with you to just back you up.
Yeah, even sometimes when you do land it, it lands you in some pretty bad situations.
I have no idea what that's like. I've never wild charged into a kill and then realized that there's 4 people in the kill.
80s Hero! That ultimate from 80s Hero onto the jungle
Look,
camp.
it was an intimidation ultimate on the jungle camp. Might not have gotten the camp, but anyone who saw it happen when this man's not afraid to waste an ult. He's crazy. Who knows what he's going to do next?
Oh, I can confirm. 80s is very crazy.
Well, the sad thing is if he wastes his ult, they kind of want that, so...
Kanaka? Too far forward.
Ooh.
Sukrab goes for a double kill. He couldn't get it. Shock and all goes wide. Super burns his ult as well. 2 ults burned, and the Florentino just walks away. I'm sorry, Daniel. What was that about him being less effective?
I just saw 4 people rotate top and not be able to deal with them, or 5, excuse me.
Don't understate the situation here.
Yeah. I have no words. Florentino's so good.
Florentino's very good too.
Goes a little bit too far forward and Trav finds this cheeky little snipe. Now the bomb as well. Super will be chased down. Raw wants one. The flicker. Spectral Ire doesn't quite connect. But Moxie whoops to Crab. That's too far forward. He'll get a double kill. But 2 towers is enough to stop him.
Florentino thought he could kill 3 under tower. A bridge too far, perhaps.
Yeah. The second book of the Lord of the Rings, not your mission statement. Kanaka will fall back. Having to reset his HP, that means the high grounds do fall. This looks like a good game for the Avengers. It's kind of... they have such a strong lead at this point.
Can I point out the fact that 80-0 ulted another minion in that last fight, and you would have killed Zuka if he didn't?
Hey, when you join the broadcaster, it's like, you don't slander the players. Unless
It's just so funny.
Unless it costs their team to win, and in this case, I can't argue that's the case.
Oh yeah, you have a point.
80's hero.
He does what he wants.
Yeah.
He will always live in our hearts. He will always live in our hearts with that one L'Oreal.
Oh
clip.
my God,
no.
Sukrab, you're still playing Florentino. If you didn't notice, that is what it feels like to play against Florentino. Play against Florentino is a bit of a misnomer. You don't actually have any control of your character or the outcome of the fight. You just experience it.
Florentino's so flashy, he just walked around in Wisp passive just to show that she does indeed have a passive.
Oh, Kanaka, Sukrab, 1v3! Surely not! He's got the kill, everyone else just backs up. 80's hero is here as well. That Murad's chunked down. Half HP, that Thunderbird lands. Finally, a connection from his ultimate. This should be the game. Moxie and the rest have 3 flares with which to hold against this, and Super's just being melted. Shock and all. Wild Prison will both connect at the same time, which isn't the most efficient use of ultimates. And now the minions are here on the core. A full focus and a 2-shot from the Florentino will mean it's game 1 to the Avengers.
That got out of control very, very quickly. And it's kind of what we said would happen, right? It was either going to be a snowball victory for the Avengers, or King Crimson was going to take it. And in that particular case, it was snowball.
Yeah, Darcy's just one of those heroes that when he gets behind, he really can't do much. In fact, a lot of King Crimson's team consisted of heroes like that. Wisp and Zuka both. Once you're behind, if you're not snowballing, you're basically a glorified cannon minion.
I
did you
get a post-game stats screen?
Yeah, me
I
neither.
did not. Yeah.
So
they're like, the hell of that. go do your casting job without it. See how that feels.
Don't try and analyze that. So I'll ask the typical play-by-play questions then. What went wrong that game for King Crimson? How do they fix it coming into game 2? Daniel.
I think a lot of it has to do with the draft. They need to be able to deal with Florentino, or at least ban him out if they can't deal with him. Zuka, it just seemed like it was one of the worst options you could pick in a particular situation because despite the fact that Beginning said that Zuka is bad in the early game, I feel like that's literally the only chance you're ever going to get the upper hand is at level 1. And he didn't, and therefore he was going to fall behind. And when I said that Florentino is worse these days, what I meant was you can just kind of like not fight him for a while and wait until you get the gank, and he's not as impactful in team fights. But if he's going to be that far ahead, then he can just fight 1v3, and it's not a big deal.
I agree with you 100%. That's actually what I was trying to say earlier. I think a majority of Florentino's nerfs come from the fact that people have learned to just not fight him, and not necessarily his damage nerfs.
So,
yeah. And the funny thing is, Zuka actually didn't fight him, but still, there was no end game in sight. Like if you pick someone like, say, a Max, I'm throwing that out there because I've played Max versus Florentino lately. There's a place to go to. You high band tower, but then after a certain point, you're like, well, I have more impact in team fights from now on. Whereas Zuka's like, this is just my life. I live in this hell. No.
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate, description-wise. I really think that King Crimson would have benefited more from a tanky side laner like Roxy. She does very, very well against Florentina. And it takes him out of that position where he's not playing not to lose. He's playing to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, coming into this game too, what is the number one thing that needs to be improved then for King Crimson? Is it drafting? Is it just you mess up in the draft? Because that seems counter to what you were saying pre-game beginnings.
I think they really need to work on the early game. It definitely showed when they had their blue buff invaded and
like
when they
3
lost
times in a row.
the first dragon. yeah. Well, unfortunately, AoV is the type of game where if a team is able to successfully invade your blue buff one time, they will more than likely be able to successfully invade your blue buff a second, and a third, and a fourth time.
They really did poorly with that blue buff invade, and they could have done a lot better, in my opinion. I think another thing that they kind of missed there was they, at first glance, their lineup seemed to be superior as long as they could play a standard game. But if you start getting into the details, then the lineup starts to fall apart, because if you want to deal with Florentino and have Zuka on your side, you need to utilize that burst. And Murad's not the hero to do that. You need you need a more bursty hero like a Krignac or perhaps even an Across to be able to just rotate over to that Darkslayer lane and take him out immediately, and then rotate over to the other side. We saw at least one time Murd come over and do literally nothing, and you just can't have that happen against a dominant side laner like Florentino. You need to kill him, and if you're going to rotate over, you need to make something happen against him.
I would argue that it's not even a matter of killing him. If you can get damage, or even just help your laner clear the way faster, so you can have a person advantage on the map. But I think they were just too far behind for that to happen.
So, at some point you've crossed a line of no return, and you think they did that quite quickly just because of their early game failings. We've stayed away from the draft because you were so confident that King Crimson had won the draft. Is there a change they can make, though, that makes it easier for them to play defense during that early game?
For sure. They can deny the Tulin and the Ryoma picks through either picks or bans. They had a Baldwin, which is very good early game. There's no issue there. I wouldn't personally run Darcy mid. It's not the best, especially against a Tulin. Tulin is probably the most dominant mage right now. So I guess their early game failings do come back to draft a little bit, maybe.
What do you think about the Sephra versus Tulin matchup? I've always said on stream that I think that Sephra really does a good job in that matchup, but we continuously see Tulin played into her, like, on purpose. And I feel like they're kind of going too far into the ability to chunk down and then Thunderbird after the Tide of Light goes down, whereas sometimes you can, if you're not if the matchup is even as far as skill wise, you can really just bait that out as the Sephora and kind of win that matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Tulin is as much of a counter to Sephora as most people think. She's very good laning against him, actually. She can out-poke him, and as long as she doesn't stand on the wave, she can actually dominate the lane. She just needs vision. But again, it is a skill matchup, so it will be dependent on the players playing the heroes.
And we see that a lot, especially with the more mobile drafts.
Blue team's
If you
turret
draft
to
really
ban.
high mobility, really high damage, that doesn't necessarily set you up for success or failure, because at that point, you've raised the skill cap and the skill floor. And if you mess up, that game's going to be over so fast. But if you manage to work things out, if you manage to sustain through the early game, then you can very well win some select team fights. Let's talk this draft now, because we're into game number 2 of it. We start things off with a Florentino ban, no surprise there after last game. But a Richter being hovered in response, this could fit the pattern of the Avengers deliberately forcing some characters through the draft.
Not only that, but once the Florentino's gone, Richter is one of the more dominant side laners. There are certain heroes, like Tara in particular, that have popped up that can really dominate that matchup. But other than that, he's really good at the side lane. He can burn you down, and he can really just impact a team fight like crazy because he can literally 1v5.
Draft-wise, I actually think that King Crimson can give them a taste of their own medicine by banning out one of the ADCs available and forcing them to also ban an ADC. And then King Crimson will be able to get one of the OPs that they want, whether that's Darcy or Elsu. Is Elsu considered an OP anymore? I don't think so.
It's a skill matchup. Oh, they consider letting Cavani through. Quickly reconsider, because who does that? But your prediction has worked out. They have their choice, and rather than go Darcy, it'll be a Tulin over the King Crimson.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I think maybe they know that Darcy first pick isn't the greatest. It's not even something that we necessarily do as BMG. There's just too many ways to play around him right now. And Tulin
You say
is
that.
so good.
You say that, but we saw the balancer.
Oh, that was a while ago. I'll just say that.
Okay.
Separate Aram here. We were just talking about that Tulin-Sephora matchup, so I'm glad we'll get to see your theories in motion. But this second pick, cycling through a lot of supports, is interesting to me. I would have thought they'd go for something a little bit more aggressive in the draft at this stage than any of the plentiful supports.
Yeah, I think maybe Avengers were debating first picking Arm there, but decided against it because there, again, is a lot of things in this game that make Arm a useless hero. But I think they could have actually done it safely since Sephora was banned, and that's probably the biggest Arm counter.
Can I just give you a like one of those big, like, one of those huge amplifier mics, right?
Oh,
and go on the
Solomon.
Indonesia server? Yeah, one of those. Yeah, go on the Indonesia server and repeat what you said about like Aram being limited, because apparently everyone on the Indonesia server is just in love with Aram, and it makes me feel sad.
I've heard some very weird things about some foreign servers,
Aram!
like Wukong. Okay, like Aram.
Sorry.
I don't think it's a good pick here at all, though. Unfortunately,
Yeah, it's really not. It's just like the opposite of a good pick, and like you're facing two of her counters in this situation. Two, not even just the Sephora who can poke you, but the Inez as well, who is not a hero that you can readily lock down from as Aram. Like Aram wants to lock down not only assassins that jump in, but also sometimes the frontline supports like a Teamy, in order to make sure that they're not effective. And
yeah, somebody's out of position.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's dig into this Nakroth, though, that got drafted against Lindis. That'll presumably be our jungle matchup. Normally, I toss that matchup over to the Nakroth. I also think this Nakroth leads well into the Annette Sephora because his dive will be effective there. Do you disagree with that, or is that something good for King Crimson?
I think Nakroth's going to have a really rough time this year. just because they have so much range on the side of Avengers. Nakaroth is he can deal with one range hero or two range heroes, but 3 or 4 he just gets blown up before he can kill anybody, right? Unless he gets super heavily given snowballs. So
That
very
said,
early game.
you plays a very nice Necroth, and this is one of the rare occasions where I appreciate the archaic grammar rules of English, where in a third-person singular situation, you stick an S again, and so you're able to distinguish
What?
between me talking to beginnings and
Okay.
talking about
Alright.
the player you.
Mhm.
You know, I did think
I
it's English.
got
at some point.
ouch, but okay, I got it. Continue.
Anyway, but yeah, so if anyone can pull it off, it is you, not you in
That
particular.
is Marcus, right? His name is just not displayed properly.
Oh, it is
Sukrum?
okay.
Sukrum? Yes, it's
Sukrum
Marcus.
is Marcus. Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
No.
Yeah, it's his name
No,
backwards.
I'm saying you on the side of King Crimson.
Is his name just you, or is that somebody whose name is broken?
He got messed up in the naming your character screen, and he decided I don't really need these name change cards. I'm good. This is all I need.
Well, we
All
talk about
we need is you. All I need is you, TJ.
people, especially if you're playing in tournament play. Thanks, by the way, Daniel. Especially if you're playing in tournament play, don't put special characters in your name, because there is a really good chance that those special characters won't display on the tournament client, and then you'll be called something dumb by the casters the whole time. Beginnings just gave a little laugh because he's done that.
I don't think I've personally done that, but I know a few people on my team have. And I remember Valor Series 2, there was an entire team who had special characters in the name. So they're all just individual letters. There's like N and E. I remember that.
Beginnings just ruse the day that he picked Beginning as his name because people just call him
It's
Beg.
too long.
Beg
Yeah.
on stream.
Eh.
He's begging for a win.
I've never heard that one before, Daniel.
Oh, well, I bet you're happy that I debuted on stream.
I am very happy.
Wonder Woman will come through in that support role, presumably. And it's a little bit of a hover here. We could see your favorite character, Daniel, the Wero, coming through with an ADC to back them up in that dragon line. It'll be a Slims from the looks of things.
My one and only game as Wero was a win, and it was the most traumatizing experience of my life.
Beginnings, it might not have been you, but I feel like you or someone else at Valor Series Australia was telling me that Wero was viable.
I think the only person I know personally who can play him effectively is Neo. I've never seen a good Wero or Wero before outside of Neo. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing this Wero.
Okay, so just for new viewers, why do you believe that? Why do you think he's so unusable?
I don't know what it is. It's a combination of things. I
can
guess.
tell you.
He has very, very clunky animations. His ability
Yes,
is super
yes,
slow.
Yes,
Yes. His movement speed is pretty slow too.
Yes,
He doesn't have instant CC, I guess. Is what
yes.
Yeah.
Go on.
No,
Okay,
there was
I've
a
gotten
period of
out a
time where I tried.
notebook, but I'm running out of space on binder paper, so I've just written over the top of all of it a lot of reasons, and kind of circled that in red pen.
There you go.
No, in all caps, clunky.
Yeah, slow and clunky.
What's
Toro can't hold a candle to his clunkiness.
First of all, you lay off my boy Toro because he is.
No, I like Toro.
Thank you. Let's talk about Varus, though, who gets locked in as the final draft here. Normally, we previously saw Varus very early on during draft phases, but one thing I've noticed during the PVL Victory Rush is she's been left to the ends of the drafts. What's going on there, Daniel? Why is she running out of popularity?
I think that people in the West just can't play her really properly. She has gotten a bit weaker because of the change where instead of being good throughout the game, they shifted a lot of her effectiveness towards the end of the game by making her by shifting her damage numbers and also shifting the lifesteal on her Bloody Kiss. They are changing that in the new patch, which you can see at t2aoe.com. But yeah, it's harder for a dominate early game, which makes it harder to get to that increased powerfulness late game.
Well said. Could you repeat that website? I didn't quite hear you. You said it very quickly.
It's d2aov.com. What you can,
All right.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I don't have a web browser currently, so I'm gonna need my insight directly from the source beginnings. Who won this draft? Why? 2 sentences.
Avengers this time. Myro
Okay.
bad, Arum bad. That was
All
3.
right.
I'm sorry.
So they won because King Crimson did stuff wrong, Daniel?
Yes, I would agree. I feel like Avengers could have won this draft even harder than what we see here if they just went for a second marksman.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's just like there's Arum and Weiro are very bad in this situation, and I feel like Avengers are going to take advantage of that.
All right, well, we're into game number 2 between King Crimson and Avengers. Avengers currently up 1-0, and my analyst desk, first time I've had one of those in AOV, has
Nice.
both got in the way of Avengers to close this series out. So let's flip that question, precluding any early game engagements. Whoa, what could go wrong for the Avengers, despite the fact that everything looks good?
They do have clunky heroes of their own. In particular, having to put Ra here on Wonder Woman in the bottom lane against his Slims is not the most ideal matchup, so that could go south very quickly.
I actually agree with that. That was going to be the one point that I would bring up. That they could punish the melee solo lane, especially with Ra.
Uh-oh. Ra, on to you. Oh, good flying spear, though. Dan lands one for a big stun. Now Mokti and Supa are a little bit too far forward, but they've got Snow dead to rights. First blood against the Avengers, and Triumph will be in trouble as well. You dives in. It takes a water wall from AT's hero. Can they catch a Nakroth? I feel silly for asking.
I feel like that was just a mistake on Snow's part. I think they could have really just punished the defense on that invade, because Snow walked right into Arum, which is the last thing you want to do as a marksman against Arum.
Yeah, that was it worked out, but it was definitely a mistake. I think the only reason they won that actually is because Safari's early game is very bad.
That's one of our weaknesses.
I'm just watching Kanakas up in the top lane have the worst time. He's currently in a 1v3 intermittently, as this Annette Lindis duo has been like poking his lane, but honestly they're not even needed because Sukram's just destroying him as is. That 3-man focus though does open things up for the shift elsewhere on the map. 80's hero gets picked off, and the Abyssal Dragon goes over to King Crimson. They've got themselves a good lead.
I feel like I'm watching my children grow up. That was very good. I'm very proud of their early game so far. They've done a good job of punishing Avengers.
It might be about to get better. You in. Sukram has to bail. He'll be able to get out, but that is the latest in a long line of, it feels like, mispositioning from the Avengers.
The sprint working out here for Sukram, for Marcus here in the top lane. I feel like Kanikas in the top lane is just using his passive a little bit too wildly. Like, I feel it's like his only appeal right now.
Uh-oh. Bracelets. Super in trouble. Will just need to get out of here, but instead turns for the snare. It's Raw under the focus. Super survives. A Hurricane Wall sets things up. You goes in for the double poke. They've got Mokti in the area as well for a Thunderbird that's barely eaten by 80's hero. And Mokti would like to keep brawling. He's got 80's hero low, but the tides of life turn the tables. You goes in after the lasso lands. Ra wants to chase the kill, but can't do it. Neither can Sukram. Nobody dies in the jungle. At the end of it, Mike Buff will be taken away. Kanakas wants this fight as well, but I think he's vastly overestimating the efficacy of his character.
I'm so. He was charging up that ult for so long, and they're like, "Nope, sorry, you can get stunned out of your ult." I'm sorry, that's the reality of your hero. Sorry, that was my laugh. I need to explain that.
What was done? Hurricane Wall as well, but Super finds the kill. Used back in, double knock up. Triumph turns the tables, as is 80's Heroes for the kill. That's 2 for 1 favor for Avengers. Despite a good early game, they're pulling out a lead in team fights.
What is the over-under on how many ults that Kanakas is going to be able to get off as a hero? This is just getting sad. He missed another ult there, and it's not like he missed it, not like he mechanically missed it, but like he was forced to miss it because he just died. Oh goodness. One thing I want to ask you, Beginnings, is we see in particular that last fight, King Crimson, they kept filing in single file into that fight. How do you get your team to really be on the same page as far as engages are concerned? Because it feels like that's one of the major differences between the top teams and I mean, not to use the term like in a bad way, but amateur team here in King Crimson.
It's just playing together, learning each other's play styles, communicating. Communicating is huge, something that's very underrated, I feel. If you're support or if you're side laner, can like properly convey when they want to engage or like their conditions for engagement, and your team is there to follow up, you'll have the most beautiful team fights in the world. But if that doesn't happen, then you'll see what you saw here today.
The most beautiful team fights in the world. Ooh, feels good. Anyway, go ahead.
Another Abyssal Dragon goes over, and another pick went over as well. A slick little jungle combo onto Dan. It was grabbed out, and now Avengers have full control of the jungle. Now they have a full lead. Moxie's trying to run past his tower. Super will finally land a snare and get a trade, 1 for 1. Snow's gone. A little bit of an overextension.
Yeah, it seems like that's really only Arm's value up to this point. And still she's low just from getting that kill, so she can't even defend the mid tower.
I was so sure she'd go down. The tower will, at the very least. Not a bad start at all for the Avengers. They've completely turned around what was a troubled early game. How?
Avengers just have a better scaling team, I believe. Aram and Wyro, I believe, are just going to become more and more useless as the game goes on. And Sephira and Lindis are just going to take over this game. They're monsters when it comes to mid to late game.
Wow.
Part of the other issue here is they just aren't macroing as well, and that's what you see a lot of times between the lesser teams and the better teams. Is you can have the same kill count as you see on the screen there, but 4,000 gold deficit because the side of the Avengers is just rotating in a superior fashion.
And taking advantage of all these golems, fighting for every single one. AZ's hero even forcing a little lightning strike underneath tower, but Super's got revenge, more kills than anyone else on his team at this point. Absolute
God.
Terror.
Super, good night.
Oh no.
Uh-oh. Snow has the trade, and Dan can't win this 1-1. He's got to know that. He'll leap out baiting underneath the tower, but 80's hero still gets the kill.
This is an old school combo, by the way, the Lindis and Net combo, where you just throw out Learner Champions the entire time. And the passive from Net, which, by the way, heals in an AoE radius, it's just always available. It just seems almost broken when you put these two together.
There's a lot of sustain on that team, yeah. Between Sephira and Annette, both Lindis and Sephira spamming their abilities. It's going to be really hard to take anybody down in extended fights.
The Annette passive giving AoE healing. Basically, the more abilities are spent in a radius around the Annette. So if you have a team of characters that are using a lot of abilities, your HP bars just get bigger functionally.
And the funny thing is she doesn't even have that much HP to her name. She's building quite a bit of damage. Went straight from Ring of the Fiend into Tome of the Reaper now to deal with his arm. And not even sure it's going to be that useful because arm has been going down despite the lack of regen denial.
Poor Kanakas.
Hmm.
He went in, died.
Oh goodness.
Sukram chases him past the tower. We'll get the kill. Nuero, still not it, Chief.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I feel like we're just watching a very slow death happening here. I would like to point out 80's Hero's build, though. I was telling him earlier that Apocalypse Rush is 10 million times better than getting Orb of the Magi on Sephara, and he told me it was bad, but here he is doing it.
A win for beginnings.
Yep, that's the only thing that matters here.
You know, I've actually never gone rush into Apocalypse as Sephara, but I almost, even having never done it, I kind of agree with you. Just because once you get the Apocalypse on Sephara, it feels so different just as a hero.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no,
it's such a large power.
Oh,
spike.
the lasso! Ooh. Oh no! The poor boy! He's having an awful day. Lie down on the couch afterwards, have some chocolate, because this one's gonna hurt emotionally. You caught out. Oh, that was a good hurricane wall as well. That's gonna feel very emotionally good for Triumph, and it should be game number 2. As they pick up the kills, and the Serpent's Embrace will grab Super behind his core. Dan tries to go back in, but he'll find nothing. Tides of Life keep the team up, and it's just Triumph focusing the course for fun for a moment, but the whole team's here, so it should be game number 2 to Avengers, unless Kanakas can do the incredible. He's still having a very bad time, making it 2-0 Avengers as they advance into the semi-finals.
I don't know if you're saying he's having a bad time, TJ. He's 0-0-0 according to the scoreboard.
Yes, but the scoreboard lies, so I'll just push that down real fast.
Oh, man.
I just love how it was literally comical. The trying to think of Weiro being able to defend there. Because the defense was just pathetic. Oh my goodness.
It is a bad time to be a Weiro. And you know what? You were like, yeah, Weiro's just awful. And I was like, yeah, you know, I agree with you. I have seen it with my own eyes. Weiro is just not great. Unfantastic, as I like to say.
And the thing is, he was getting dominated by a hero in the early game whose kit was specifically reworked in such a way that they killed Varus's early game so that she wouldn't be as effective, and yet he was still getting dominated in the lane.
Yeah. Your end game scoreboard in front of you. Anything stand out beginnings?
The fact that 3 of the people on Crimson Kings, I believe, have 0 kill participation. That's really unfortunate. Makes me feel sad.
Yeah, particularly if you're not Super, who tried his very hardest to carry that game as an ARM.
I mean, okay, 2 of those 3 kills were literally Snow.
Yes.
Yeah, Snow just walking in. Well, Snow just walked into him and he's like, "Oh, I forgot that you have an arm. My bad."
Oops.
Very good game from the Avengers. King Crimson try their hardest, but do fall short, particularly with the Weiro in game 2. I'm hopeful they can clean things up for the next qualifier, though, because there are many. Let's go to a quick break. We'll take a few. We'll come back with the final game of the evening. Your first best of 5 as it's Yugen Dynasty against Assassin's Squad. Welcome back. It is the PVL Victory Rush. Episode 6, I think we're on. That's how that works. My name's still TJ, still joined by the one and only Daniel, d2.aov.com, and Beginnings.
.com is in my name, I guess.
Yeah, that's your name. Beginnings. I don't know why I was so surprised to have you here, but I kind of slipped that in there. Like, beginnings? Really?
Beginnings. Well, people in the lobby were surprised.
Yes.
Beginnings.
The real one. The best support in the Valor series. Provably. We are into Yugen Dynasty versus Assassin's Squad. That's why there's an extra S on the end, because I couldn't fit squad, so I just put an extra S to demonstrate that there were more words. But it didn't really display right, and now it just says Assassin's in the first PO5 of the PVL Victory Rush. This is the first semi-final.
You could abbreviate as AS for assassins and then S for squad, and so it's ASS. That would be a nice way to abbreviate that one.
I feel like your motivations are questionable. Beginning as the only sensible person here.
I mean, the beginning of the word is ass.
Shot. Honor, clarity of mind. Tell me, you've played against these teams. Who do you favor and why?
I have played against both of these teams, I believe. I genuinely
don't remember.
have no clue who's gonna win this.
Really?
It's been a while since I've played both of them, and as far as I know, they're like on the same skill level, so hopefully it'll be interesting to watch this best of five.
Didn't we cast both these teams last week?
This Yugen Dynasty squad did play in the Valor series, so that's got to give them points, right?
Oh, hopefully. I know Tony Wright's good.
Oh, he is. What is up with Tony Wright, by the way? Is he just that good? Because we keep watching the Valor series games, and it's like Tony Wright 1v5ing, and I don't know how he does that.
Or 1v9ing.
I think it's, maybe it's just his hero pool. He's very good at playing late game hyper carries. So, and because his team maybe isn't the strongest, it gives them more time to shine.
We'll see if it does.
Carry into backdoor.
We've kicked up our draft. Daniel, it's Hayate against Sephira Caffney. Already two
Did you do that on purpose?
Don't normally see through. What is this?
Did you do that on purpose? Are you just trolling, or is this like a 50-50 hit rate on pronunciation?
Also a little bit that. Give it. Why do we have a Caffney? What's going on?
Because the other side has a Hayate, and everything needs to be perfectly balanced.
Okay, is that perfectly balanced, beginnings?
No. I actually think Hayate was the better pick here, especially since Assassin Squad decided to pick Baldum. If the Hayate is any good at positioning, he will make Baldum's life miserable. I despise playing against that hero as a tank player.
Yeah. I have the same feelings. You're just like, can we not do this, please? Every time I just look at the Hayate, I'm like, let's do something else.
He is playing into Caffney, though. I somewhat infamously called Caffney anime Valheim on my stream a few times. Do you agree with that assessment?
No.
It's okay. If it would be accurate if Valheim could do damage.
Okay,
exactly.
but I feel like you just press the Caffney button and Caffney kind of happens, and Caffney rather consistently happens at an alright level, and that's why she's powerful. But I don't think an alright level is viable enough in competitive play.
This gets me back to when we were in England for the Valor Series regular season, and you were saying that in order to play Linda/Valheim, you just roll your forehead onto the phone and it works. That's how Caffney basically works.
Yes, but with Caffney, you don't need to roll your forehead because there is one button. So you just
use your elbow.
Forehead gently on your phone screen, and you are pressing the Caffney button.
It's labeled Caffney.
It is. I've seen it. Omen Lumber joined the draft alongside of Tulin. You're the support boy here, beginnings. What's up with Lumber?
Ooh, Lumber is my favorite. Actually, no, it's Lycifer is my favorite. But Lumber is so good right now, and he's so underrated, I feel. He's so strong at both defense and offense. He can dive. You can peel. If he takes heal, you're not going to kill the carry. If he takes flicker, you're not going to get away from the engage. So good. Love him so much.
I feel like Lumber is one of the few heroes where the difficulty rating is actually accurate. Because if you just pick a Lumber in your standard solo queue game, most of the time you're not gonna have a good time. You need a beginnings level player for Lumber to be worth his weight on the battlefield.
I appreciate that compliment, but I don't think that's true. It's not that hard to aim a skill shot.
Well, but it's not just like the skill shots. It's the fact that he is a hero that protects your backline, but he's a melee hero, and those two things do not go well together.
He's got extra defense with a Wonder Woman joining him, but kind of all that defense, all that tank is instantly negated by the fact that they're playing into an Illumia and they move kind of slow.
Yeah, I think actually YD's team doesn't synergize very well. I don't think the Tulin belongs here at all. I think they should have picked up a more defensive mage. Because unless Tulin snowballs, he's going to have such a bad time this game against Assassin Squad's lineup.
Yeah, I completely agree. Although Scud does go better with the Tulin, but now you're having like a kind of a schizophrenic lineup right here.
No. I'm actually all in on the Yugen side because it's a dunk squad. Wonder Woman Lumber for the full CC engage. Scud splits up the fight. Tulin and Hayate have the mobility to chase down and punish anyone who's low.
Hayate, though, he needs like a couple moments to get himself going. Part of his kit is you need to hit someone with 6 attacks / shurikens in order to make sure that they're taking that true damage. And even if you jump in with his kunai assault or whatever it's called for his ultimate, it takes a moment for them to actually take real damage because they need to take 6 shots first. So even finishing someone off can be difficult if you're Hayate, if they're not already taking shots. And I feel like they need to have like perfect engage, or else the Hayate is not going to have the damage flowing enough before his team's just dead.
Yeah, I don't know if it's more about a perfect engage or if it's about slowing the fight down enough. Because Kafni can affect a fight a lot quicker than Hayate can. Yeah. So as long as they can slow down the fight, and not only the fight, but the game, Hayate needs more time. He has to hit that 150% attack speed, barrier before he starts one-shotting people, basically.
To explain, you hit certain thresholds with Hayate. His first ability throws 5 shurikens, and then 7 and 9 once you hit the 75 speed and 150 attack speed barriers, and then your ultimate, I believe it's 9, 11, 13, or if it's 11, 13, 15, something like that, where you basically do more attacks once you hit certain thresholds with attack speed, and it's very significant, especially because you want to hit the true damage threshold as quickly as possible.
So I'll do it again. Game number 1 of this BO5. Who won the draft? Why?
I'm gonna leave it to you first, beginnings.
All right. I think.
Right. You're like, oh.
Interesting.
Assassin Squad will do a better job of protecting their ADC. I just wish that I could switch the supports, because then Assassin Squad would have like the most perfect team ever. Kafni would never die. It's even for me.
Really? Daniel, do you agree? Toss a coin?
I just have a hard time. I feel like I'm missing little details here. I just need I need a couple minutes to like dive into this matchup, because I still feel like the side of Yugen is just schizophrenic, and they're not exactly sure what they're trying to do. Whereas on the side here of Assassin Squad, they have a more synergistic lineup, but it's not necessarily like filled with the power picks that you need. And then on top of that, like Lumia is not necessarily something that gels with the team as well.
Early invade threatened here from Assassin Squad. It should be counter-invaded, but
Illumia?
Picked up on. Instead, it's Leon the focus. They should be able to stay alive this early on. There's not enough damage. Red buff's taken away. Assassin Squad win the early exchange.
Beginnings, I feel like this is poorly done here from the side of Yugen Dynasty. They don't get the counter invade, and they just kind of sit status quo, and status quo means they're behind.
Yeah, I think
No
that
one's
was...
running punish. Sorry to interrupt. They don't have a single punish over on Yugen.
What?
Oh, no.
What?
Oh,
What?
that's a mistake and a half.
Tobias, I think you need to... you know, the character next to Tobias's name means God. I think he needs to delete that character after this game.
What happened? Well, they seem a little tilted by it. Sly and Tobias both go pretty far forward. Tristan has to lean forward to try and interrupt, and he can't do it. Sly doesn't have another lightning strike. It's first blood and second blood. Instantly over to Nows.
Yep, that was a really bad idea from the side of YD. Assassin Squad has such a strong early game with Ryoma Baldum, and that being supported by the CC of Illumia, you're not going to escape from overextending into a jungle like that.
It's almost like they got baited into an early game fight because they got behind because of the invade. Weirdly enough, the invade from the team that has not necessarily the better early game is what allowed them to get that fight off.
I'm just still confused by the fact that they seemingly forgot to run punish. Because it should be Tobias on the Wonder Woman, right? He's doing the jungly things. So I guess he just forgot to... Oh, no. Yeah, and you can see the effect of the punish there as the mic color resets. He just forgot to run it. Mid lane, TV will be Death's Embraced in, still lands the ult. Wellbe's Fury will be cancelled instantly though by a good wild prison. It's a bridge too far. TV gets the kill. Niles can't double down. And everyone gets away. A kill back in the favour of Yugen.
Wild Prison from the Baldum and Cataclysm from the Illumia it's either feast or famine, right? You either get the perfect synergy or you have the perfect anti-synergy, and that time it was the perfect anti-synergy.
Yeah, I would be lying if I said I haven't done that once or twice myself. It always feels really bad. But you can actually see another effect of Tobias not having punish here is the fact that he's not even level 5, while Zohan, the Ryoma, is level 7.
Also, he's not going to be able to build Leviathan.
Yeah, that's who.
Sly called out, burned down, Fusillade as well. Hunter just wanting to feel like he's part of the fight. He isn't, but he'll be able to burn down this mid tower, pressing the caffeine button on it, and it just crumbles. Tristan pulled out as well. Good wild charge. They can't find the kill, but they get him very low.
He has to use Rampage and Flicker to get out of there, though, so that's pretty much a win. That's 120 seconds cooldown on that.
Yeah, it's going to be stopping any engages from the side of YD for a while. Unless it comes from Tobias ult flickering.
Okay, so late game, I guess, is what you're looking for now. You're hoping Tobias scales well enough, but this is just a 4-man squad now, and they just want towers. Tristan goes in, the Earth Splitter, it's huge, but Wild Prison's there an answer. Earth Splitter gets a double knockup, but nobody can combo off of it, and all the while this fight's happening down bottom. Spartan takes the tower up top.
Yeah, that was a really good reactionary ult from the Baldum Ezekiel. He definitely saved what could have been a very bad situation.
I just love how both teams have decided to go full lat am and all congregate on the bottom lane. Meanwhile, mid lane, it's just it's a minion battle. They're having a good old time shooting each other. No one seems to want that experience, and it makes me feel sad.
You're personally triggered whenever you see minions go to waste. Stood next to you. You look at the minimap, you see 2 minion waves colliding with nobody there. You're like, this can't be happening.
Wasted gold.
Pretty much. Oh my goodness! But this, you talked about the late game coming here from the side of the Yugen Dynasty, and it feels like just one of those memes where like, yeah, they're losing, so therefore we just say they have the late game. but it's not necessarily the case.
But
yeah, no. Oh, go ahead.
it's gotta be late game, I feel. Tobias doesn't, he'll go in, bracelets land for the double wild prison. Fusillade as well to eat them up on the emergence. TV tries to go in and is instantly death embraced. Slice thinks he has something and Hunter denies him. It's only Tony Wright left, a 1v5.
Wow.
Tony Wright, can you do it?
It's not looking good for Tony, right? Oh no. This Baldum, I think, is like the low-key MVP. He's counter-engaging with these ultimates against the Lumber so well. Like, Lumber's gotten 2 4-man ultimates, but they've got nothing off.
This time, I was gonna say it would turn, but instead, a Fusillade eats them alive, and it's the surrender button tapped by Yugen Dynasty, as they recognize this game is not going well. It's a best of 5. They have a chance to turn things round. My number 1 note for them coming into game 2 is remember to have a punish.
Oh my goodness.
But let's move past that. Is there anything you can extrapolate that they were maybe doing poorly that game that could be improved, aside from running punish?
I just gotta point out, before we get into any serious discussions, if you look at Tobias's build, he went either for magic defense or boots first, even going jungle. If you forget punish, I feel like you want to go at least go short sword. I don't know.
Because he starts boots, then he goes into Talisman of Strength. At that point, he spent the first 2 minutes of the game not doing damage.
Exactly. it's something that maybe you need to be able to kill the jungle monsters. Anyway, let's move on.
I think YD definitely should have fought less. Obviously, you don't want to never fight when you're behind, but they took fights that they shouldn't have, like fights around mid, fights in the jungle. I think the fight under tower was fine, especially with that Lumber ult, but it was immediately shut down by the Baldnum. They need to recognize when you're not playing to win. You're in survival mode, right? So maybe they need to play less aggressive. They need to go less LATAM.
I mean, we saw it at the end of the game there, right? They were like, oh, we haven't engaged there. And then they realized, yeah, it was a good engage, but you're fighting 3v5. Like, literally the entire opposing team is in that bush. And maybe you should back off.
Yeah, not only is the entire opposing team there, but they also have a few thousand gold over you.
Yeah. So that's not going to go well. There are ways to come back, and that's not one of them.
We actually do see this a fair bit, I feel. And we're getting into the lobby for game 2. But we do see this a fair bit, I feel, with teams who just don't know how to play from behind. And it was really triggering me during this Valor series regular season, where teams would fall behind and then just go about business as normal. And I'd be like, you can't take that fight! There is no world in which you win a 5v5 right now, because you are 3 levels behind. And that doesn't mean you can't win this game. It does mean you have to be realistic about your chances of winning a team fight.
Yeah, I think that's a very big downfall of a lot of teams, especially more amateur ones. I don't know why it's such a common mistake. I'm sure there's like some sort of psychology there.
Although I don't want to stir up trouble here with beginnings, but when you were on, when we had the old BMG versus Pride Stark matchups, it felt like whoever got the early lead would just normal the game, and whoever was behind was just doing the same silly mistakes. What do you say about that?
I would argue against that one, sir. I think we only went 1-1 with them once, and that was the second game we lost, I feel, was because of some drafting errors, and I don't think
we saw you in the qualifiers as well. And you went 2-0-0-2, 2-0-0-2.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, I didn't play for Pride Stark in the first qualifier of Pride Stark versus BMG. And then in the second one, I can't remember. That was a long time ago, man. I'm sorry. That was so long ago.
The
Try
cop out
and
is
call him
real.
out on specifics. He's like, I don't even remember what this game is.
Yeah, I genuinely could not even tell you like what I played. So
Daniel
those were long
has a
days.
better memory than anyone else I know, though. So this is like something he does to me too, where we'll like have an argument, and he'll be like, "Yeah, but 6 months ago you said this in our conversation at 2:30 p.m. on a Wednesday," and I'll be like, "How?"
Well, you caught me there. Yeah, like what do you even say to that?
Am I the woman in a relationship? Not. I mean, we talked about gender constructs earlier, but I feel like that
you know
is
what? You
typical.
Can be whatever you want to be, Daniel. I don't want to put you on the spot. I would like to put Yugen Dynasty on the spot, though, because they are now solidly behind the game. What's up with that?
Literally one game behind.
What's up with that? What went wrong, aside from not running a punish? What can change?
I think maybe YD is 200 IQ, and
Okay.
they knew that they were going to lose. As soon as the game started and they did not have punish, I think they knew they were going to lose, so they have the mentality of like, let's just move on to the next one. That's why they surrendered at 6, right? So I'm hoping that is their mentality going into this. I hope they are 200 IQ. I hope that they can turn this around. They're not tilted. I hope they can turn this into a 3-1 sweep.
I'm a fan of the StarCraft surrenders. And I know, Daniel, you're a big StarCraft fan. But if you're watching professional StarCraft, which is one of the oldest esports rounds, very rarely does a game get fully played out. 99% of the time, two pros playing each other get to a point where they're reasonably sure someone's won, and they just surrender and move on to the next game. And I think there's a tremendous benefit to that.
That is StarCraft, though, where it's tedious to finish off every single last building. Whereas literally the point of the game in a MOBA is to specifically kill the core. And like all of the attention rises around that. Whereas all the attention in the StarCraft game rises around the actual team fight, where it's not even... You could literally... We argue about just putting your head on the phone, but you can literally just move your army across the screen and you'll win a game once you get to a certain point in StarCraft.
So you don't think there's a benefit to early surrenders in AFV?
I literally wrote an article saying that's mathematically stupid to surrender any time unless you literally have 2 AFKs.
Where can I find that article?
Well, not... I need to rewrite it because it used to be on SemiFinals.
Oh.
I need to rewrite it.
I actually have a question for you. Are you saying in ranked, like in solo queue, or in competitive?
In competitive, it's fine. Because at a certain point, it's like it's not about saving time when you're in a competitive game, but like literally, if you're playing ranked, people will like literally be like, "What are we doing? It's a waste of time." Like that's like in their top 2 reasons for surrendering a game, and I would just mathematically, by the numbers, you are not saving time by surrendering almost ever. Yeah. If you're trying to rank up as fast as possible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. I don't know. You just mentioned like you can hover over a bunch of units and click across the map and win the game in StarCraft, but like there is an AoV equivalent of that, right? Like you can just run it down mid as 5 and end the game, no matter what the enemy team does, because you're like 14k goal ahead. Right.
But in those situations, the game will end in literally 30 seconds. So you're saving about 20 seconds by surrendering.
Yeah. I guess it isn't a matter of time; it's a matter of maybe mental.
You're for those who enjoy the satisfaction of surrendering before they will die. Like, you didn't kill me.
Yeah,
I killed me.
I call those people victims. It's a victim mentality.
Ouch. We are currently waiting on Tony Wright to join this lobby.
Tony Wright surrendered on this team.
No, he's throwing spears in practice mode right now. He knows he's good.
I'm a little bit curious, if you don't mind me diverting the conversation from this game at hand. We're heading into the AWC. we're heading into kind of a massive international competition. And the last time that came round, it was very easy to draw a distinction between the way that the Western teams were playing and the way that the Asian teams were playing. I have a perfect panel here. Beginnings, player on the Western team at the AWC, and Daniel, analyst of both regions. Do those differences still exist between the top team and Asia?
I would say that we try as hard as we can to emulate that playstyle while also having our own, like, I guess, twist. Because if you are playing against somebody at their own game that they've been playing longer, you are going to lose, right? So you have to have your spin on it, like something that you can do to give you an advantage. So I guess that's my answer.
I feel like in the best leagues, which is the GCS and the RPL, in my opinion, there are obvious.
Sorry. Oh, you said RPL. I'm sorry. Continue.
They obviously there's going to be a region-specific playstyle, but the kind of benefit of having such a high-level league is that they're going to have a bunch of different playstyles amongst the top teams, and so you'll see teams like a Flash Wolves, for instance, in the last AIC, where they're just all about team fighting, and you'll see an all-around team like J Team, which is now Mad Team, who will just do all of everything excellently, all across the board. And you'll see an AHQ, for instance, who is supremely good at macro and have just the craziest team strategies overall that will help them just kind of technique a game in their favor. But I think that's what makes a strong league, is to have those different playstyles.
So your argument is there is no regional style?
I wouldn't say there is no regional style. I would say that once you get to the very top, teams develop their own play style outside of what the region typically dictates. And in some cases they even develop, they even make the play style on their region, and it can shift depending on which team is on top.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. I like the way you said that. I have nothing else to add, but yeah, that was very well put.
All right. Well, we do have all the players that we need to make this lobby happen, so we can now get into it. We had a sub. Tony Wright dipped. Apex came in to replace him. Apparently, he had a personal emergency following a chat.
That is unfortunate. Poor Tony Wright. I wanted to see him pull off the 1v9 plays. I was excited.
I am still in shock 6 months later from
yeah, watching that game that was very fun to watch.
It's particularly rough because those NA games were happening at the end of a 6 to 8 hour broadcast day for us.
Mm-hmm.
So
and my mind was just in puddles.
As close to unfiltered TJ and D2 as has ever aired on it. And I feel like you could hear that. If you listen to our EU casts in the Valor series and our NA casts, there is a level of composure that exists in our
a lot more
EU
emotion.
But when NA goes full LATAM/NA, I just that contributes to it as well, where I'm just what is happening here? Where are we? What are we doing? Also, it's funny that the production crew and the fellow casters, whether it was Matt Andrews or Jump, it took them several casts to realize that I was on my 4th or 5th Red Bull by the end of the broadcast. And it's and they're like, you drank that much tonight? It's this is every day.
Oh my god.
The stacks of Red Bull that build up. You should have seen what happened when we got Jeff Suajay on Red Bull. There was one day, definitely, where he was kind of flagging towards the end of LATAM. We get to NA, and all of a sudden, he's hitting everything at around this level, and it's pure energy. And I'm like, wow, I have never seen that side of Sui. What's going on here? And I kind of lean back at the desk a little bit, glance over, and sure enough, can of Red Bull. Half open.
There you go.
Color casters and Red Bull. Dangerous to mix. However, I'm going to mix these color casters with this game, which is like Red Bull, because it's that energizing. Yugen Dynasty against Assassin's Squad in game number 2 here at the PVL SemiFinals. We're into the pick ban, and so far what's standing out to me is the fact that we didn't see a Florentino pick ban at all.
Can I just say that I already do not like Assassin's Squad draft at all? I dislike the fact that they banned Tulin and Richter. Okay, no, the Richter ban's fine. I dislike the fact that they banned Tulin and picked Teamy as first pick. Because that opens you up to things like the enemy team running Darcy, and you don't really have anything to counter that. Already, they don't have anybody that can dive into the backline. They don't have Nakaroth, they don't have Zil, and they don't have a jungler. That gives YD the opportunity to be able to ban out both of those heroes and make it super safe for their backline carries. They have 2 late game hyper carries. If YD plays this smart, they will destroy this game 8 minutes in.
Let's talk about how Telenas is the good version of Yorn.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a pretty good analysis of the hero.
Is that our talk about how Telenas is the good version of Yorn?
Well,
Go ahead.
the thing is, both of them are considered immobile mages or immobile marksmen, but it's only a moniker for Tel, whereas it's the truth for Yorn. He literally cannot move while dealing damage. So that's an issue.
He does if the Yorn is uncontested in a team fight, he does more damage than almost any other character in the game.
He also needs all of his cooldowns, whereas Telenas, you press one button and you can kill someone
in 2 hits.
Play Caffeine too, and by that argument,
no matter what they
do, the best character in the game. So,
well, that's why she's banned, and that's why we have this ban pick
phase. You know what? You're right. Teamy Yorn Omen, the bans and picks eventually for Assassin's Squad. Yugen Dynasty counter with Telenas, Darcy, Crashed. Beginnings, you're a support boy, so I'm going to direct the support questions to you. Why is Teamy kind of fluctuating in and out of the meta here?
Just because you can do things exactly what YD is doing right now. When you see them pick Teamy Yorn, you know Teamy is going to be babysitting that Yorn. And if he's not, he's going to lose that lane versus the Talanis, and he's not going to scale like he should, right? So already, Assassin Squad is put in a pretty awkward situation. Crush has Punish. He's going to be harassing your jungle on the opposite side of the map. So Teamy is really split between 2 places here. I really like what's happening so far.
A lot of times when you get into a game, having independent heroes is an important factor because you can take fights whenever and however you want. And that forces your opponents in a difficult position sometimes. Sometimes you look at a team and you're like, oh, this is great. They're 5-man complements each other perfectly. But you look at the other side and they're like, well, every single hero there can fight by themselves, and that's why they're going to win. And that's what you see sometimes. Oh, hi.
Yeah, what was that? I'm so confused.
I think this is just Baldwin sideline to deal with the Omen to be like a big beefy boy that doesn't die.
No, definitely Baldwin side lane. If it's Crush side lane, I don't know, I'll tweet TJ is the best.
That is very
I feel like that's
mild.
something you've done already.
No, I don't think so. My pride would not let me do that.
That's not true.
Wow.
Okay,
Oh.
Illumia Zil. This is gonna be dive and backline. So the hard double backline, Illumia Yorn, and then you've got the kind of dive of Zil Omen. The thing that's worrying me is there isn't really a lot of tanky HP to protect that Illumia Yorn. It's like the Teamy and maybe the Omen, technically.
I'm more worried about the Zil. Because
Fine.
if the Zil isn't solo killing people, he's completely useless. He needs to solo kill whenever he gets the backline, which means he needs to snowball. And if this game isn't snowballing in Assassin Squad favor early, they will have already lost.
I agree, but I think YD messed up their draft very badly by taking the Baldum side lane. I think Omen does actually fine against Baldum in the side lane because of his true
The big punish! They changed the punish. We did it.
Oh, you got it. But I think Zill exists solely to contest the Darcy. Darcy has to be very careful of his use of his dimensional shift, I think is what it's called. I'm not a caster. Sorry.
Dimensional walk.
Dimensional walk.
Dimensional
There
portal.
you go.
Which one? Which
Wait,
one are you referring to?
His first ability. His first ability.
Dimensional walk. Yes.
Okay, yes. He has to be very careful of his use of that, because if he ever uses it wrong or poorly, Zill will be on his ass, like white on rice, and it will be very sad for him. But the reason I think YD messed up their draft is because they picked Kali, who's a third late game hyper carry. Who's going to protect their jungle in the early game? Baldum can't 1v5. They need to be careful.
So one of it's part of the issues that Beginnings is referring to is that they have not only the fact they have 3 like hyper carries on the side of Yugen, but also they're very backline poke heroes. Whereas they have 2 engage heroes in Baldum and Crushed, and those don't really go together because once the engage comes in, there's no follow up. They really prefer just poking people down from the backside, and Crushed and Baldum don't complement that either.
So who wins? 2 sentences both ways, Beginnings.
Who?
Who?
I'm going to trust in Assassin Squad. I'm going to hope that the first win put a lot of confidence, put a lot of wind in their sails, and they're going to win it.
That's where we're at. It's not the draft anymore, Daniel?
I'm going full draft. I'm going to say Yugen Dynasty take this one. I think they killed this draft other than the weird Baldum pick. I think they have just way too much poke, and that's going to win the day for them.
I always love to see Crashed Kali as a combo, because you see Ethereal Pulse
I
followed
don't.
by Metamorphosis, and the Kali's just like, wait, but I was hitting that!
I was about to say I don't like to see that, but I see you're going for the facetiousness of the statement.
I think maybe Crushed exists as a better Arum here. Back on the days of Tribe, we used to run Kali Arum because it guarantees you're going to get a tower whenever you push with those 2, right? They're zoned by the Arum ult, they're zoned by the Ethereal Pulse. So maybe it's going to be something like that.
That is true. Tobias is AFK, but he is one of the both Darcy and Kali are 2 of the better mage tower killers in the game because of Kali's empowered auto attacks and Darcy having just a ridiculous first ability called Dimensional Walk that kills things from lots of health.
I remember when he was first released, Darcy could like 2-shot towers late game. I was having so much fun. Dimensional Walk.
Tobias
Zap!
Tobias just missed 2 dimensional cubes in a row on stationary monsters, and and I think he wanted to play it off by using Poddish and making it seem like he hit the dimensional cube, but he definitely missed. I saw that miss, Tobias. You can't.
I remember when D2 told me that we don't call out players unless it's detrimental to their win.
I remember that too. I don't know what happened to that nice boy.
Well, I know Tobias, and he deserves it.
Cool.
I agree.
Didn't he lose his plane ticket inside the... Anyway.
No, that was Marcus. Actually.
Oh, that was
he
Marcus
lost his plane
that
ticket
lost
in
his
the
plane ticket inside the airport. All right.
Super.
Well, that's aired out now. I'm glad everyone knows that happened.
Yeah.
Well, Tobias forgot his punish, so there's that as well.
Basically the same.
Equally large mistakes.
Yugen Dynasty punking around this abyssal. Just a reset for now. But, rotating from Yugen. They had 4 players bought for a moment.
You can already see the gold lead coming out from the Teamy passive plus Waterstone. Already a solid 800 gold ahead of YD here.
It's just a nuts combo. It's just a nuts combo, but anyway.
Mid-lane Cataclysm, Tobias in trouble, but he's dimensional portaling away. It doesn't keep him safe. He'll be chased down by the Zill eventually. First blood locked in over to Assassin Squad. They want more. This Abyssal, as Quintel will go in. TV has an Eagle Eye, but it's too far back. And the Abyssal Dragon should be picked up. Leon narrowly locks it away, as TV, I thought, was going to be able to steal that.
It definitely did look like a steal on my screen. That was insane. I actually think that was kind of unlucky for Tobias there. I have never seen a Zill follow a Darcy through their ult so far like that. That was crazy.
I've done lots of testing. Anyway, there are certainly situations where you can ult as you can use your tornado as Zill and be caught in dimensional portal and still continue your ult onto someone. Although obviously that was a different situation because Tobias was the one teleporting. But yeah, the tornado goes pretty far.
Tobias.
All in all, that fight.
Okay. Nows will go in with a tornado. There's the Wild Prison. Good interrupt. Tristan stays live. Hard shot wide. But Leon gets two with a massive cataclysm. Oh my god, it's fat. They got three. That's absurd.
Tobias just saw his life flash before his eyes as he stood in the bush and accepted his fate. He's like, there is a literal cataclysm coming from my body. I will just stand here and accept it.
I would like to point out that is the second time we have seen Baldum anti-synergy. Baldum ulted 2, I believe, and Darcy ulted 2 as well. But that didn't work because Baldum.
It's
again one of those situations where they could have amazing synergy if they do it well, but they can have also amazing anti-synergy.
He just missed that Sage goal. I'm sorry, I don't call out players. Tower on the ball does fall. Tobias needs to back up, but he's too far forward. Hunter will shut him down quite quickly.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. He wasn't safe with the usage of his first ability, so teammate just stunned him, Zill followed it up, and Darcy died for free. Oh, and the Blues resetting again.
And they're actually fortunate that it did reset, or else Lumi would have taken it. With
Now,
the
do you get this? Yeah, he does. Slime picked up in mid. Nicely done. Apex will be able to play behind the tower.
Am I allowed to change predictions mid-game?
Nope. That's actually not the point of predictions. Metamorphosis through the focus. If he can get to it on the minion wave, Apex can't. Just melted by that double backline duo. I've never seen Metamorphosis HP vanish that quickly.
The funny thing is, other than the Yorn, they don't really have heroes that just melt through HP bars. It's just the crazy gold lead right now.
Tobias just stole the red buff with his ultimate.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen that before. This game is full of firsts for me. That's great.
He's making up for that Sage buff he missed the finish on twice in a row.
It actually does damage. The ult actually does do damage. It's a tiny bit, but it does.
That's what makes it even more impressive.
Mm. He went for enchanted kicks here, which obviously gives you extra magic pierce. That is pretty standard, I suppose.
After his nerfs, I talked to Zane a bit about it actually, and he said that he feels like Darcy almost needs enchanted kicks now because the nerfs were just that bad.
I've always favored just going for the flashy boots because you just want to. I mean that part of it, that me being unable to play Darcy well, so I just want as many dimensional walks as possible and just turn him into a marksman. But still, I just like having just being able to constantly just look people in the eyes and be like, "Boom, gotcha."
Yeah, I'm actually a fan of switching boots throughout the game. Like, not a lot, but maybe once or twice, because early game, sure, that Pierce is going to be nice, but late game, you're going to need... Oh.
They just walked over to the Dark Slayer.
Oh.
Down smashed on it. Dark Slayer's theirs.
They were already up 6,000 gold, and I feel like even if Yugen knew that was happening, they would be like, take it, I guess.
Yeah, I'd like to believe that Assassin Squad knew that Yugen's blue was going to be coming up, so they'd be on that side of the map. but I think it was maybe just a chance thing. They just happened to go for dark. So I thought.
Tobias, the Pooty Poots. It may have stunned him out. Now's in for the kill. Apex Pot Red Morpheus is sly, hunted down by a heart shot. And Hunter will arrive, flickering into the midst of the fight for 4 kills in it. Can he go for 5? They've got Tristan, double wild prison. Tristan will flicker over the wall, baiting to the last moment, and that might cost him everything. And Kinsell diving, can't finish him the heart shot on the very corner of the map. That will be the kill. 5 kills, a penta.
Can we just give that last kill to Teamy though? He tried so hard.
Hunter down. Hunter has to brawl for it, but Nows is there taking the front lines, and he's doing so much damage. A sliver of HP left, but Hunter dominated the last, 3 minutes of the game.
You know, one of the most depressing things is watching a game in which you see one side has the late game comp, and you see it start to work as the game is basically already over. And you saw it in that last fight where the poke was just ridiculous, even though they were down 10,000 gold from Yugen Dynasty. And it's like, well, I don't think it's going to matter anyway. And then you just feel sad.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I told you so, but that is due to the fact that they drafted the 3 late game hyper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, and you... If you're going to complement it, Tobias is, and there's no way he's gonna do anything. If you complement it with early game heroes, you need to have early game heroes that can complement those heroes in playstyle. And Baldum, he's not gonna secure picks with his particular comp. So him being a good early game hero, it doesn't actually help them.
Oh, he's Hunter doing the madman. Absolutely deletes television. He's got internet streaming all day, doesn't need television anymore. Now he'll focus down the core. That will be game number 2. Assassin Squad 1 point away from taking the semi.
Wow.
Beginnings, I have to ask you, do you play with 3 fingers?
Yeah. Except I use thumbs for movement and abilities, and then I use my left index finger to pan the map, and then I use my right index finger to...
Oh, 4 fingers! Oh, yeah. We're going up a level here. So we got 4 finger play.
Is panning via minimap, and right side is panning via sliding.
Yeah. Well, the reason I say so is because the heart shots from Hunter there were definitely panning the map and aiming with the 2 finger right side on the phone there, and it's pretty hard to do, but it's impressive when it's done well.
His snipes were very impressive that game. Yeah, 33% damage coming out of him.
You know what I was noticing though? Hunter was landing all these sick heart shots, but missing 100% of his shots on major objectives across the map. There were 2 abyssal dragons where the dragon fight's just happening and an arrow passes in the distance.
He was just next level IQ. He was saying if Yugen Dynasty was any good at this game, they would have leashed the dragon to this specific spot, and that's where my heart shot would have landed if this team were any good. I'm just basically putting smack talk. I'm talking smack on behalf of Hunter. I don't know if he appreciates it.
Yeah, I don't know. You can see the Teamy definitely coming in clutch there. The Yorn has over 1,500 more gold than his jungler. That might be because he has 7 kills, though. Maybe. But the Teamy passive plus the Waterstone definitely helping out a little bit.
I'm curious to see if we get more strategies like that, because you guys were very cold to the idea of the Yorn, and it just dominated. TV didn't get a word in.
Well, the Yorn Teamy combination is definitely lethal, and Beginning was referring to ways in which you can punish that, but we didn't see.
Why you did none of them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, what should have been different? Is it just they didn't have any mobility to dive the Yorn?
I think Crush should have taken punish and made himself as annoying as possible to that Zill. Junglers often choke, and if you start like
Junglers choke.
yeah, junglers choke. I cannot tell you how many junglers I've beaten in Smite fights as a Crush. Like, it's ridiculous. They choke. Everyone chokes. So if he just had taken punish and made himself as annoying as possible to that Zill, I think that their Talanis would have been fine in bot lane with Kali rotating down to help defend, and that game would have gone 100% differently.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and also, Tobias didn't miss dimensional cubes on stationary targets.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about Tobias. Tobias knows how I feel about Tobias.
Oh my god. All right. Well, I have some unfortunate news. It does seem like, and I'm keeping track of the chat, but it does seem like the Yugen Dynasty side can't get a 5-man roster together.
Oh no.
They're
due to weddings and graduations. What? Come on. What is happening here? What? They can't play. Well, who skips AOV for weddings and graduations?
Right.
Accomplished human beings. With
what are you talking about?
Lives. Yugen Dynasty have, as such, forfeited the series. That means Assassin Squad 2-0 up, do win the BO5. They'll walk away with the first ticket to the final. The second semi-final will be happening tomorrow, so be sure you're here for that. Thank you very much, Beginnings, for hopping in on the cast with us. I hope you had fun.
Pleasure. It was a great time, actually. I enjoyed it a lot.
You actually, so I'm going to slide this in here real subtle. You actually talk quite a lot about your opinions on the game. You have, I believe, a channel, a video channel, a collection, a boutique of gourmet videos that you upload to a website, and I'm just checking my notes here. That's called YouTube?
Yes, I do have a YouTube channel.
What is
Beginnings
that
AOV
called?
on
How
YouTube.
can I find that?
Beginnings AOV. Just my name followed by AOV. Super easy to find.
All right.
How do you spell beginnings?
Just like you normally would. 1 G, 2 N's. I struggled with that a lot growing up.
Wait, 3 ends or 2 ends?
Well, okay, so it's 3, 2, I mean, it's 1, 2, 1, I guess. Beginnings.
Oh, sorry, 4 ends. My mistake.
I don't. Wow,
Whatever.
I'm too dyslexic for this
No,
conversation. I literally can't participate. Thank you very much for watching today. You can find Daniel over at d2alien.com, where he writes a wide variety of articles and input. I am on Twitter at EsportsTj, and I also stream on Twitch at, you guessed it, EsportsTj. We'll be back tomorrow with the remainder of the bracket. I'll throw that up on screen right now. Here, watch this motion transition. I worked pretty hard on it. You can see where we're at. We just, of course, watched the first semi-final with the second one, and I believe the final tomorrow in 2BO5s. You can follow this channel or head on over to PVL.com for all the information on that. You can join the upcoming tournaments. You can join the Premier Valor League. They're all exciting, and all the links are below this screen. For now, have a great rest of your evening. That's all I'll ask of you, and we'll see you tomorrow.